28 campaign teams have cleared away their signs. 3 student media groups have edited their last round of interviews. 5,357 students have cast their votes. And tonight, live on Guild TV, we will find out which candidates will be filling our 10 non-sabbatical and 7 sabbatical officer positions at the Guild of Students in 2014. Hello and welcome to Guild Election Results Night Live, brought to you by Guild TV in collaboration with Burn FM and Red Brick News. On tonight's show, we will be bringing you all the latest results as they are announced live in the Deb Hall here at the Guild of Students. But in the meantime, we will be joining our reporter Chloe Rayner, who will be chatting to some familiar faces around the Guild and catching up with some of the teams who have been joining our candidates on the campaign trail for the last week and a half. Also on tonight's show, we'll be catching up with our political analysts, Johnny Dolan and James Kendrick, who will be giving us a deeper insight into the elections process itself and asking some hard-hitting questions of our current SABs. Also, they'll be looking ahead for the candidates, who are successful this year, and they will be assessing what challenges they face in the future. If you want to get in touch with us on tonight's show, then please do. We would love to hear from you. If you're a Twitter user, we're using the hashtag ResultsNight. If you're not on Twitter, then you can search for Guild Television on Facebook and leave a message on our wall. Or alternatively, if you're not on social media at all, then you can send us an email at elections@guildtv.co.uk. Hopefully, we'll be reading out some of your comments later on in the show. But before we go over to the Deb Hall for our first results of the night of the non-sabbatical candidates, let's have a look back at the last week and a half of campaigning.
Where is he? Oh wait, there.
So, as you can see, all of the candidates have been working flat out for the last week and a half to try to win you over with their gimmicks, policies and maybe a few sweets as well. But before we head over to the Deb Hall for the first night's announcements of our non-sabbatical candidates, let's run through all the individuals who are standing for office this year and which positions they are standing for. Firstly, we're going to run through the sabbatical officers for 2014. It's a two-horse race for Vice President of Activities and Development. We have Vadim Veselek and Stuart Found. Bethan Dovey is running uncontested for the Vice President of Democracy, Resources and Sustainability. Your candidates for Vice President of Education are Joe Armour, Dan Bellamy and Deborah Hamans. Jack Mabley is running uncontested for Vice President of Housing and Community, and Molly Brown is also running uncontested for Vice President of Sport and Nutrition. 5 candidates are running for the Vice President of Welfare, including Helen Dunnett-Orridge, Frankie Greenwell, Julie Le Desma, Themis Pagodis and Connie Parkin. Finally, running for President is Maximilian Shapiro, Benjamin Pooster, Edward Sainsbury, George Derbyshire, and rerunning is the current President, Poppy Wilkinson. And don't forget, RON, which stands for Reopen Nominations, is also running for all of the candidate positions tonight. Secondly, our non-sabbatical officer candidates, who will be representing the Guild's minority groups in the next year coming up. Running for anti-racism and anti-fascism officer is Rachel Clemens. Rachel O'Brien is running for community action officer. The disabled students officer is Rachel Porter, and Christopher Gerald is running for ethical and environmental officer. Running for the ethnic minority students officer is Jawaria Ali. And your LGBTQ candidate is Samantha Bull. Hoping to win your vote tonight for the position of Women's Officer is Rachel Kenyon. All of the positions I have just run through above are uncontested. However, we have 3 candidates running for International Students Officer, Peter Zhu, Jeffrey Yip and Evelina Zauyeva. The positions for the Mature and Part-Time Students Officer and the Home Students Officer have no candidates running, but will hopefully be filled by another election later on in the year. Results for all these positions will be announced throughout the evening, but first I'm going to hand over to our political analysts, Jolly Doland and James Kendrick, who are interviewing the VPDR, Tom Ragg.
Thank you. Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Johnny.
So, Tom, are you happy with how the elections went, and do you think you've managed to engage traditionally underrepresented demographics?
I really hope we have. We, as the Guild, have put a lot of effort, more so than has been in the past, in engaging students generally. We've sent out specific emails to people. We've gone out with various sort of aims to try and promote the elections in various ways. Obviously, there weren't as many candidates as last year. There's obviously there could be many debates as to why that might be. Like, we don't know why there's only one candidate for Vice President of Sport, for example, when Vicky's done a fantastic job this year. And you could say that in any other position. Maybe it's because the elections last year were so hotly contested. Maybe it was for any other reason. But yeah, we've tried very hard and we're very proud of what we've done. But yeah, it's a much lower turnout than last year. Yeah, for sure.
So the Guild this year gave out free popcorn, candy floss and cake to those who voted as an incentive. And there are also rolling polling stations to encourage higher turnout. But yourself and Student Voice didn't attend the hustings for presidential and vice presidential debates. So was the main goal of the sabbatical team to get kind of a higher turnout rather than a higher quality of elections?
Well, I was certainly interested in getting a higher quality. I mean, we felt that in general we decided to not put on hustings, for example, where we might usually have hustings in the Mermaid Square and in the middle of campus, because generally the only people that actually attend those are the candidates and their campaign teams. Obviously last year Guild TV did a great job on the hustings, and the same again this year. And I think there were definitely some cross wires, because we've had conversations with Student Voice, and but yeah, we're really sort of happy with what Guild TV have done. And if you felt like let down by us, then like fair enough kind of thing. Because I think there was definitely sort of like a bit of cross wires there, but yeah.
Cool. So in your acceptance speech last year, I think everyone can remember you saying that Left will be back next year. Do you think your prophecy's been fulfilled, and would you say the left, or are they right?
Well, that's a fair question. I think like generally in the elections, like as candidates, maybe there were fewer sort of left candidates. I think sort of on-campus activism has been very strong this year, and obviously like has divided opinion. But I guess like that with the living wage having been won last week, sort of the left are kind of happy. But in terms of like actual officer candidates, and you know, we'll see with the results tonight what students are thinking in terms of their votes for the sort of left versus right versus how do you identify people? Basically.
Do you think that partisan politics have a role to play in student unions, or do you think that sabbatical officers are there to represent everyone?
Well, sabbatical officers get elected they have a mandate from whoever votes them in. They run on particular policies, like I've run on particular policies, and I've tried to sort of carry out those. Obviously, I got 200 more votes than reopen nominations last year, but I still thought like it would be wrong of me to like go in and not do what I said I'd do. I think that's sort of disingenuous kind of thing. So I've tried to sort of stick to my guns to a certain extent and try to engage students. We're going through this democratic structures review, and I hope that people critique that thoroughly. I really want people to be talking about that sort of stuff. And I hope that the sustainability stuff's come through. And I hope that whoever gets elected tonight for VPDRS will sort of continue that. But yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Good luck with the rest of the night and the rest of the year.
Thank you.
So now we'll be going to Chloe in the Media Hub.
I'm here on the balcony. We are just over the Deb Hall, which is where the presidential elections are taking place. To my right is Ban FM, and to my left is Red Brick, and we've been covering the presidential elections together, trying to entice the students to take part and vote. And with me is Richard. He is an editor of the Red Brick magazine. Do you believe it's been important for the social media to cover these elections?
Yeah, definitely. I do think the media groups are the main source of like information for the student society as a whole. I think that in that comes like massive responsibility, but also it is our job to make sure that everybody sort of knows what the candidates stand for, what they want in terms of the guild for the next year, and so that they can make like a good judgment as to who they want to run the guild for the next year.
Now, I saw that you had been taking podcasts of the candidates and putting them on SoundCloud. Do you think that was an effective approach to communicate to the students?
Yeah, I think it is, because basically, as a website, you know, we want to like have as many ways as possible for our readership to engage in the candidates. So rather than just having lots of text, you know, which can be quite boring and not very accessible, you can have people like listening to what they're saying and like watching them in terms of videos and everything. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I think Guild TV has kind of been doing similar stuff. But back to you, Alice.
Thank you very much, Chloe there, joined by Richard from Red Brick newspaper in the Media Hub. So far, we have heard a little bit about the elections process itself and some of the initiatives that have been run by the Guild. We've also heard a little bit about the media coverage of the elections in the past week and a half. Now, the elections process can sometimes be quite stressful for some of our candidates and their teams, but it's also quite fun as well. And no day best reflects this than the last day of campaigning, when all the teams get to come together and clear away their signs on campus and also congratulate each other on what they've managed to achieve in the last week and a half. Now, Guild TV went along to yesterday's last day of campaigning, which finished at 4 o'clock, and they managed to capture the spirit of the day. So let's take a look.
I'm never
Hi, Molly. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Me and Johnny have got you a present to celebrate your birthday.
Party rings, because we're going to be invited to the party, right? Yeah. So, on to the interview, of course, the hard-hitting stuff. Let's leave party rings to the side.
Are you saying party rings aren't hard-hitting?
Wow. We all have our views. Does it feel like just 1 year ago that you were in the Deb Hall waiting for the results, terrified, or... Yeah.
It simultaneously feels like 100 years ago and like it was yesterday. Especially because I was a little bit hungover because I'd been out the night before because my birthday was on the Friday rather than the Saturday, and it had been my 21st. But it sort of feels like the year has flown, but so much has happened. I almost feel like a completely different person. I think being a sabbatical officer definitely does change you for the good. I think.
It's good to hear that. So would you say you've achieved as much as you thought you would have by now?
Yes. I've not achieved what I thought I would have achieved.
Oh, I see.
But I've definitely achieved an awful lot and do feel really proud of my year so far. I still think there's a lot for me to do and I'm really excited for the next sort of four and a half months because there's a lot of things that I've got lined up that I can hand over nicely, but we'll just see how they go.
So do either of the VPAD candidates have policies that you think are already happening or maybe unachievable in your view?
Well, I am already doing some work on room bookings, and so that actually nicely fits into both their policies. We do have a very difficult building as a student union. It's a beautiful building, but there are limitations when you've got 236 different student groups and everybody wants the same rooms at the same times. So yes, I think that is work that has already been done, but it's definitely not an easy job. If people could solve room bookings, I think you'd cut politics in the guild by at least 50%. Yeah, I think there are some policies which I personally wouldn't have put into my manifesto, but they're really interesting, and I do see how they could really benefit groups. So, props to them.
Okay, thank you. So now I think we're going back to Chloe, our roving reporter.
Hi there, I'm with Ed Sainsbury, who was one of the presidential electees. Ed, how did your campaign been going so far? Has it been very nerve-wracking or has it been fun?
Campaigning was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and all the other candidates were good sports as well. It was great to actually get out there and talk to as many students as possible, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's good. I saw on your Facebook page that you were like, I'm exhausted, don't know if I'll sleep through tomorrow. How are you feeling now? Is it are your nerves starting to rack up a bit?
Yeah, I'm still very tired and very nervous as well, so yeah.
Yeah? Are you looking forward to this year for the Guild? Because we had quite a rough year this past one, and I know a lot of your campaign efforts were towards trying to improve the Guild and trying to think, do you think there is the opportunity there for a better future that's more communicative with the students themselves?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, potentially regardless of who the team is for next year, I think there's definitely a very strong chance for more students to be engaged and actually find the Guild more relevant to them during the next year, definitely.
I really like the orange tie, by the way. Is that to do with the Sainsbury's campaign?
Yeah, it is. I found it today and thought, I have to have it. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much, Ed. We're going back to Alice, I think.
Thank you very much, Chloe, there. So we are just about to head over to the Deb Hall for the results of the non-sabbatical candidates for tonight. But first, let's have a look at the candidates representing the Guild's minority groups for these positions one more time. Running for Anti-Racism and Anti-Fascism Officer is Rachel Clemens. For Community Actions Officer is Rachel O'Brien. Rachel Porter is running for your Disabled Students Officer. And Christopher Gerald is campaigning for Ethical and Environmental Officer. Running for the Ethnic Minority Students Officer is Jawaria Ali. And your LGBTQ candidate is Samantha Bull. Hoping to become your Women's Officer is Rachel Kenyon. And running for International Students Officer, Peter Zhu, Jeffrey Yip and Evelina Zauyeva. Positions for Mature and Part-Time Students Officer and Home Students Officer have had no candidates run this year, but will hopefully be filled via a by-election in September. And Ron was also a candidate for all of these positions, and Ron stands for Reopen Nominations. Just a reminder that if you want to comment on any of these results tonight, please tweet us using the hashtag resultsnight or send us an email, elections@guildtv.co.uk. We're now going to head back to the Biorma Bar and join Chloe, our roving reporter.
Hello, we're back at the Biorma and things are starting to get a bit busier. I'm here with Hugo and Mark, who were SAB officers before. Can you tell me a bit about the role and about the kind of tension that are on the candidates just now?
Well, I think it's obviously quite a tense time for anyone. The gap between finishing elections at 4 p.m. on a Friday and the results being announced at 7 p.m. on a Saturday is a time where you don't really know what to do with yourself. You don't know whether to try and think about it. You don't know whether to try and take your mind off it. It's just a really confusing time. So the best thing I try to do is just to forget about it, watch some TV with some friends, leave Selly Oak. So hopefully they've had an opportunity to get their heads out of the game a little bit and relax, because tonight's always going to be a very tense evening.
And do you remember your elections night itself? Did it make a big impression on what you did for the forthcoming year at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most nerve-wracking nights of your life. You just put in 2 weeks of a massive campaign in. You're tired, you're hungry, you just want to sleep and you're nervous. And then the night itself is very, very tense, because there's the job on the line of it. You want to implement your policies, you want to do good for the guild and for students. And then, yeah, when you get it, you think to yourself, right, I've got to do a good job now, because you've got to make all those 2 weeks worth it and show to people that they voted for the right person and that they were right to trust you with their vote.
So there's a lot of pressure on the candidates tonight. I think that's quite obvious. Do you think that there's going to be a kind of a wide turnout for the votes tonight, or do you think it's just going to be kind of quite narrow between the candidates?
Well, unfortunately, we're obviously not being involved in the guild anymore. We were watching from afar, so I haven't had a chance to look at it in too much detail. But from what I could tell, just from glancing at it briefly every now and then, was that the presidential race will be very close. Obviously, there's a few candidates for that. With Poppy running as the incumbent, it will be a first if she were to be re-elected. And there's obviously, I think, 3 or 4 really, really good candidates running against her who have run some interesting and strong campaigns. So I think that could be quite close. From what I've been told to people here tonight, there shouldn't be a standout winner in any of the elections. So it'd be really interesting to see how close it might be.
That is very interesting. We are just going to go back to Alice just now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much from Chloe there in the Deb Hall. Now, as I said, you can get in touch with this show tonight using the hashtag on Twitter, resultsnight, or you can send us an email in the studio, elections@guildtv.co.uk. Now, as promised, I'm going to read out some of the very early tweets that are coming through tonight. So we've had one tweet from Harry Chitty, who says there needs to be an alternative election programme like Channel 4 do, preferably hosted by me. Well, the one thing I can say to that, Harry, is maybe you should audition and come present for Guild Television for next year's elections. But do you think that means he's not enjoying the programme tonight, guys, or just doesn't think we're doing a very good job? I'm not quite sure.
I think we've inspired him more than anything else.
Inspiration.
The main key I've taken from that.
I like that a lot. We've also had a tweet from a former Guild Television member, Simon Lee, who said he was ready and waiting to watch the elections results show tonight. So I hope he's enjoying that at home. Someone has also commented, their Twitter username is Things Can Only, so I think that's Things Can Only Get Better, so that's Burn FM. And they've asked, is the Burn FM commentary downstairs? What if a breaking event happens upstairs? Well, I hope everyone is listening to the Burn FM commentary again tonight, because as you know, this is a collaborative show with Burn FM and also Red Brick News. So I hope everyone's listening in to Burn FM, but also carries on watching the show tonight. And we've also got a tweet here from Ollie Constantino, who you may remember from a couple of years ago was our Vice President of Activities and Development. And he's actually tweeted about our former President, David Franklin. I think this is a bit of a parody of that infamous tweet from Barack Obama, or no, was it David Cameron, saying that he was talking to a leader of the, probably Putin, I think at the moment, obviously the current situation. And he said, David on the phone to Barack about political issues with a picture there. So guys, I'm really glad that you're sort of getting the selfies tweets that we've had so far. Please keep on bringing your comments in tonight. We'd love to hear from you on this show, and we'd love to do a little bit of analysis of your tweets and know what you're thinking about the results tonight. So guys, why do you think that turnout today was so low? Is there any reason for not very many students getting involved this year?
Well, I suppose there were fewer candidates and they were less competitive. There was a certain there was a lack of confidence I felt with them. It sort of felt like 2 football teams playing for a draw and hoping to go through on penalties rather than sort of really going out and trying to take hold of the game. There wasn't any of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that all of the candidates that ran unopposed very much scaled down their campaigns. I mean, some of the sabbatical candidates, I saw about 10 cardboard signs, and that was it. I think that at least one of the non-sabs did a really big, the anti-racism, anti-fascism officer did a really large campaign for a non-sabbatical officer. But yeah.
Guys, thank you very much for your analysis there. Right, we are now going to go over to the Deb Hall for the first announcements of the night for the non-sabbatical candidates for 2014.
It really seems like yesterday that many of us were crammed into this room awaiting the results, where I won by around 200 over Ron. Don't want to talk about it too much. The end of a week and a half of campaigning, and one of the toughest, but we hope most rewarding weeks in many candidates' lives. Please, can we have a round of applause to show appreciation for such an amazing effort by everyone. It's important that as students we realise that when we work together we can achieve amazing things. The Guild of Students is primarily here to protect, defend and extend the rights of students at the University of Birmingham. The Guild of Students provides a vital link between students and staff at the University of Birmingham. Tonight is basically a night of celebration for all of you as candidates, as campaign teams, etc. Regardless of who wins this evening, you and your campaign teams have all put a huge amount of effort into these elections from beginning to end. And we know for some it was an extremely long period, and we'll be looking at that after. You've put your ideas out there. You've let people know what students' unions need to be about. Students voicing their opinions and showing that they actually care. We're not just the iPod generation. We're not just here with our head, with our stuff in our ears. We're not listening. We're actually out there, and we're saying to people we have a voice, and we say some things, and we actually have some different ideas to the people who came before us. We are recognising that the University of Birmingham is nothing without an academic community, constantly creating knowledge for society and empowering people from all walks of life to educate themselves and each other. The University of Birmingham's community is helping to solve local and global problems through its academic research and activism, and with the biggest challenges we face, including, for example, climate change, global poverty and war. We all need to be able to come together and challenge the status quo. It's incredibly important. I want to thank the university staff, and particularly those from estates who put up with our campus being somewhat bombarded all week. These thanks extend to all those at the university who have been involved in helping to facilitate elections, from giving out extensions to candidates to helping promote the elections through emails and social media. We are very grateful. I'd also like to thank Guild Media, so Guild Television. You might have seen me with my Campaign for Spare Time badge on Guild TV just now. Also Red Brick and Burn FM for all their hard work over the last few weeks covering these elections. You've worked unbelievably hard. Your content has been helpful and professional and has really helped to raise awareness of the elections, candidates and their campaigns. Finally, a personal thank you to the amazing staff, including many students, of course, at the Guild who've helped make these elections what they are. This has been a huge effort across departments with far too many people involved to thank by name. Your support, time and experience has been invaluable to both myself and the Elections Committee. I can confirm that the final total number of voters in this year's officer team elections is 5,357. I will now hand you over to the Director of Academic Services at the University of Birmingham, Brendan Casey, who would like to formally welcome you to Guild Officer Elections Night 2014 in his official role as nominated returning officer.
To be here in my role as the representative of the returning officer for the Guild of Students. The University of Birmingham Guild of Students is the student body which represents students from all walks of life at the University of Birmingham. In addition, the Guild provides advice and support to students in need, a place to find part-time employment, a chance to join clubs or societies, as well as safe and fun nights out. The Guild also helps students to find somewhere to live and, most importantly, provides students with a voice on the issues that matter to them most. This year's officer team have already proved instrumental in enhancing the experience of students studying here at Birmingham, campaigning on behalf of students on issues such as the Council's proposed introduction of Article 4 and the government's plans to sell off student loans. Student well-being has also been at the forefront of the Guild's work this year, having introduced a weekly sexual health clinic and regular self-defence classes. The Guild has also continued to work closely with the university to the benefit of students. A few examples include the introduction of water coolers on campus and a 24-hour library as of Monday. However, we are here tonight to announce the Guild officer group that will lead the Guild in 2014-2015. Each candidate will be elected on the basis of the changes they hope to make during their year of office, improving students' lives across campus, addressing their academic issues, their welfare needs, and their personal development. To all of the candidates, I congratulate you for the hard work and effort that you have put into your campaigns and wish you the best of luck tonight. I would also like to thank the NUS for agreeing to act as the nominee of the returning officer to our elections in this academic year. The Guild of Students has found them to be an invaluable source of support and is grateful for the advice given throughout this period. And now for the official part. Voting in the 2014 Guild Officer Elections team was held between the 3rd and the 7th of March 2014. As the representative for the Registrar and Secretary, who is the returning officer for the Guild of Students, I can state that the returning officer is satisfied that the Guild Officer team elections for 2014 have been run in a free and fair manner. To make a complaint regarding the Guild Officer team elections following the close of voting, you must do so in writing to the returning officer, who will investigate any complaint fully. All complaints must be received by the returning officer within 5 working days of the close of ballot, Friday the 14th of March. Please note that all results announced tonight are provisional until the election has been concluded by the returning officer. This will occur after any complaints have been made and investigated fully. Results will be confirmed as soon as possible, but not less than 5 working days after the close of ballots. I will now hand you back to Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brendan, for having something to say. Before we begin announcing the results, I must say a few more thank yous. Throughout this election, a team of dedicated individuals has worked hard, meeting daily to ensure that the election regulations are adhered to and the election remains a free and fair competition for all candidates. I would like to thank the members of Elections Committee for the support and effort that you have put into your roles, especially over the last few weeks. You have been fair and professional. You've been incredibly thorough, I might add. Can I ask Elections Committee to come to the stage to collect your gifts? Please give a big round of applause to Matt Sifrit, Natalia Manskova, Sam Weaver, Ros Bergin, Vicky Harris and Jethro Lee. Thank you a lot to Elections Committee. I know everyone couldn't be here tonight, but they've put in a lot of time over this period, and I'm sure they want to catch up on their work as well. Someone else who's put a lot of time in has been George Duffield, who has provided invaluable support to the Guild, particularly with marketing and promotion throughout these elections. Thanks to George. No Guild officer elections would be the same without the Election Committee's Fun Awards, which go to candidates we feel have stood out in the campaigning process for whatever reason. The first award is the Copycat Award, which appears to have appeared quite a few times. After much debate, must have taken 5 minutes at least, Elections Committee decided that for his near-perfect replication of a certain Vice President activities and development campaign from 2 years ago, Mr. Cosentino, the winner is Vadim, where's Vadim Veselek? So please come up. This is some great copier paper. Thank you, Vadim. Elections Committee also decided to give commendations, firstly, for a perfect replica of her own campaign to Poppy Wilkinson, and secondly, for being so inspired by a Vice President Welfare EasyJet campaign from 2 years ago to Frankie Greenwell. Thank you to them. I'll do this one right. What we're going to do is we're going to do the award. I'm going to announce the award and the commendations. You can all come up and you can see how much they were copycats or anything else. The second award from Elections Committee is the hotly contested Davy Jones Award for Best Mariner. The winner for their effort in dressing up as a very convincing Capitan, with a ponytail and all, is Captain Jack Mabley. However, there were 2 other very impressive pirates this year, so commendations also go to Ben Pirate Pooster and Stuart Never Lost Found. Could Jack, Ben and Stuart please come to the stage to collect their certificates? The third and lucky for everyone final award from Elections Committee is the most intent on beating Ron. This year's Elections Committee felt one non-sabbatical candidate in particular had campaigned very hard despite being uncontested. Their campaign included an impressive banner drop from the Muirhead Tower, as well as the creative use of a certain type of orange. This award goes to Rachel Clementine Clemens. Congratulations. Also, 2 very hotly contested, one sabbatical and one non-sabbatical, goes to one Molly Brown for her Vice President Sport and Nutrition. That was absolutely excellent. And Christopher Gerald for their work on their campaign whilst also uncontested. That doesn't mean to say that other candidates did not campaign hard. Undoubtedly they did. Now, hopefully we're at the right time. It says 8:30 on my sheet. I don't think we're nearly there. The VPEDR and Vice President Welfare, me and Jethro, who also sits on the Elections Committee, are going to announce the results in the Guild officer elections for non-sabbatical officer positions. So Jethro, if you could please sort of come up here, and we'll crack on.
Good evening. The first non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the anti-racism, anti-fascism officer. The candidates in this election are Rachel Clementine and reopen nominations. There were 3,000 valid votes in this election, therefore the quota for the election was 1,500 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 398 votes. Rachel Clementine received 2,602 votes. I therefore declare that Rachel Clementine is duly elected as the Guild of Students Anti-Racism, Anti-Fascism Officer for 2014-2015.
Thank you. The second non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the Community Action Officer. The candidates in this election are Rachel O'Brien and reopen nominations. There were 2,731 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for the election was 1,365.5 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 391 votes, and Rachel O'Brien received 2,340 votes. I therefore declare that Rachel O'Brien is duly elected the Guild of Students Community Action Officer for 2014 to 2015.
The third non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the Disabled Students Officer. The candidates in this election are Rachel Porter and reopen nominations. There were 2,536 valid votes in this election, therefore the quota for election was 1,268 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 225 votes. Rachel Porter received 2,311 votes. I therefore declare that Rachel Porter is duly elected the Guild of Students Disabled Students Officer for 2014 to 2015.
The fourth non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the Ethical and Environmental Officer. Here I've got my fossil-free badge. I don't want to talk about it too much. The candidates in this election are Christopher Gerald and reopen nominations. There were 2,568 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for the election was 1,284 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 373 votes, and Christopher Gerald received 2,195 votes. I therefore declare that Christopher Gerald is duly elected the Guild of Students Ethical and Environmental Officer for 2014-15.
The fifth non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the Ethnic Minority Officer. The candidates in this election are Jaweri Ali and reopen nominations. There were 2,346 valid votes in this election, therefore the quota for election was 1,173 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 361 votes. Jaweria Ali received 1,985 votes. I therefore declare that Jaweria Ali is duly elected the Guild of Students Ethnic Minority Officer for 2014-2015.
The sixth non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the International Students Officer. The candidates in this election are Peter Zhu, Jeffrey Yip, Evelina Zalieva, and reopen nominations. There were 2,148 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 1,074 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 222 votes. Peter Zhu received 513 votes, Jeffrey Yip received 752 votes, and Evelina Zalieva received 661 votes. As no candidate had reached the initial quota, the election went to a second round, with reopen nominations being eliminated. In the second round of voting, the quota was 1,074. Peter Zhu received 524 votes, Jeffrey Yip received 769 votes, Evelina Zalieva received 688 votes. As no candidate had reached the quota, the election went to a third round, with Peter Zhu being eliminated. In the third round of voting, the quota was 1,074. Jeffrey Yip received 1,033 votes. Evelina Zalieva received 845 votes. As no candidate had reached the quota, the election went to a fourth round, with Evelina Zalieva being eliminated. Jeffrey Yip received 1,705 votes, and it looks like he's been elected. He's not actually here, but congratulations to Jeffrey for that, and we'll get us back to him as soon as possible.
The seventh non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 1,098.5 votes. In the first round of voting, reopened nominations received 277 votes. Samantha Bull received 1,920 votes. I therefore declare that Samantha Bull is duly elected the Guild of Students Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans and Queer Students Officer 2014 to 15.
The eighth and final non-sabbatical position to be announced will be the Women's Officer. The candidates in this election are Rachel Nicola Kenyon and reopened nominations. There were 2,293 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 1,146.5 votes. The first round of voting. Ron, reopened nominations, received 303 votes. Rachel Nicola Kenyon received 1,990 votes. I therefore declare that Rachel Nicola Kenyon is duly elected the Guild of Students Women's Officer for 2014 to 2015. Right, we now ask for a bit of patience. We're going to take a short break so you can congratulate the winning candidates and also replenish your drinks. We'll restart in 20 minutes' time. Thank you very much.
To Guild TV's live coverage of the Guild election results night at the University of Birmingham. So we have just seen 8 candidates elected for a non-sabbatical position, bearing in mind that 2 of those positions will hopefully be filled in a by-election in the near future. So let's now go over the winning candidates who the students of the University of Birmingham have voted as their new non-sabbatical team for 2014. Your anti-racism and anti-fascism officer is now Rachel Clemens. Your community actions officer goes to Rachel O'Brien. Rachel Porter is your 2014 disabled students officer. And Christopher Gerald is ethical and environmental officer. The ethnic minority students officer is Jawaria Ali. And the LGBTQ officer is Samantha Bull. The women's officer is Rachel Kenyon. Of the 3 candidates who ran for the International Students Officer, the winner was Jeffrey Yip. Congratulations to all those who have been voted into the positions tonight. We wish them all the best in their roles starting in the new academic year. Now, just a reminder, if you would like to comment on any of the results which has happened so far, offer your commiserations or congratulations to the winning candidates, then you can do so via our Twitter. We are using the hashtag #ResultsNight. If you're not a Twitter user, then you can search for Guild Television on Facebook and you can leave a comment on our Facebook wall. Or if you're not a social media user at all, then you can send us an email, elections@guildtv.co.uk.
Get one. But no surprises.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the International Students Officer, we didn't really know who was going to win, but then again, they wouldn't be aiming their campaigns at us as we're not international students. But projections, so we're doing quite well. We're quite happy.
So why do you think that there were so many positions uncontested this year?
I think this non-sabbatical positions are always quite uncontested. You've got to make the commitment to do the role alongside your degree, and obviously not everyone wants to do that.
So we saw Tom Ragg there make a kind of controversial comment. Obviously there was an award handed out to some of the best campaigns for the non-sabbatical officers, but he did say that obviously that wasn't a comment on any of the officers that ran who didn't campaign very much. But, you know, is that a problem that people who are uncontested don't go out on campus and canvass and vote?
I think that although he said it wasn't a comment on people not campaigning, it definitely was. Let's be honest, I didn't see most of the non-sabbatical officers really out there on campus or with any cardboard. It is a problem. I mean, it is a problem. If you want the position, you need to show that you want the position with hours. You can't just say you want it and hope that you beat Ron just because people in general like to not vote for Ron.
Yeah, I don't think people were sort of saying that people should have to put lots of cardboard out on campus, because it's always good to see people sort of innovating for new ways to get their message out, but we need to make sure that people are pushing themselves as much as possible to provide as best a job for whoever they're supposed to be representing.
Now, Erin Lee has sent us a tweet here, and she said it's interesting that the non-sabs haven't been given the chance to speak this year. Do you think that's interesting, or do you think they're just trying to get on with the night and go as quickly as possible?
I think they're probably just trying to get on with the night. I think it is interesting. If we look at last year, then some people did kind of take those speeches not just a thanks, this is really great, this is what I'm going to do, but kind of went into slightly political rant mode. So maybe it's a reaction to that, maybe not, I don't know.
But also I suppose it's a shame, because these are people, like I just said, that are prepared to give up a lot of time for something they believe in. And it's a bit of a shame to not recognise how much work they're going to put in. But
I definitely agree with that, yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys. We're actually going to go over to Bielma Bar now. We're going to join Chloe, who's joined by Tim Lucas.
Hi, I'm here in the Bielma Bar. It's getting very busy at the interval. I'm here with Tim, who is the political analysis analyst for Burn FM. What approach have you guys been taking to the current presidential elections? What have you been focusing on?
We've been on. We did a pre-show since 6 o'clock. We've been covering every aspect of the elections in terms of how this year's gone for the team. Various factors that might have affected these elections, like Sombrero Gate and Defend Education protests, along with interviews with current SABs, and just trying to cover every angle from 6 really. And then obviously, like GTV, we're also doing a live show from inside the Deb Hall.
Now, you ran last year. You mentioned the Sombrero Gate. Do you think there is a big difference between the people running this year and the people running last year and the kind of political problems at the Guild right now?
There's not as many candidates this year. I think that's really clear. The campaigns haven't been as big. There's been 1 or 2 that have been sizable, but the rest have been pretty lacklustre, I think. I'm not sure if the sort of political wranglings this year meant there was less candidates running. I don't think anyone can really say that. But it's certainly been a very subdued year for elections, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because students can get really annoyed by the cardboard and lecture shouts and get sort of a bit tired of it all, so maybe that's not a bad thing.
No, I did hear a lot of students this year saying that it's a lot nicer to not have so much cardboard on the campus. Do you think personally that it would have held you back from going in this year if you'd been in the position to run for this year's as opposed to last year's?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'd rolled my campaign out this year, then it would have been like a huge discrepancy between like the amount of just stuff that I put out and this year. But like, yeah, I've been really surprised in terms of like social media's not being that active, and I'm not really sure why that is. I mean, there's a couple of election like sort of candidates that have stood out above the rest. But yeah, I don't think anyone can say sort of like what the impact's been of this year. But it's certainly been a really interesting election.
That's a very good point. I think some people earlier were saying that they think the votes this year are going to be quite close. So it'll be very interesting to find out what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes. Back to you, Alice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chloe there, joined by Tim Lucas in the Bielma Bar. Now, unfortunately, we're having a few technical issues at the moment, so please bear with us and stay watching the live feed, but we're going to have a break for 2 or 3 minutes. So please stay with us and keep your comments coming in on social media. Thank you so much for bearing with us there with our technical issues. And now we're going to go to our political analysts, Johnny and James, who are joined by a winning non-sabbatical candidate.
Rachel, how do you feel? Firstly, congratulations, but how do you feel?
Thank you. Very glad to have won. Glad to have beaten Ron.
It was a tough candidate.
Yeah. Not very talkative.
So is it a nervous time in the Deb Hall waiting for the results?
Yes, it does seem to be. Tensions seem to be running very high.
So what do you think the first thing you're going to do in office is? And also, what do you think is the policy that you've run on that you're most proud of?
The biggest one I'm most proud of is actually something very simple. It's to actually work on awareness, particularly relating to mental health and invisible disabilities, because I'm a firm believer, and most people hear the word disabled and think wheelchair, which isn't true, and it can come with problems as a result, and often disbelief. But I definitely want to work very closely with DAMSA to try and help improve matters and increase awareness.
So hopefully a campaign, it may be on the cards.
Maybe, yes.
Next year. That would be exciting. And what's going to be the first thing that you do you think, when you get into office next year?
The first thing I would like to do is to start looking at room booking within the university, particularly relating to physical disability, because sometimes it's not the most easy to access, where you have to move from room to room very quickly, and it's not brilliant is the technical term.
Yeah. So, looking over your campaign backwards, is there anything over the last week and a half that you would have liked to have done differently, perhaps?
No, my campaign team and everybody who's supported me has been fantastic, because I've been having trouble with my health over the last week and a half, and without them I wouldn't have been able to do pretty much any of it, so they've been wonderful. Without them, yeah.
Brilliant. And finally, just as a last question, who did you bring with you as your +1 and why?
My campaign manager, because she is fantastic, can actually set up Facebook pages and has been on the ball with everything all the way through, and yeah, she's brilliant.
And what's her name?
Emily Aviard.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's all we've got time for, so Alice, back to you.
Thank you very much, Johnny and James. Now, if you've been keeping up to date with our elections coverage for the last week and a half, you may recognise our political analysts from Guild TV's Election Update show, which has been running every morning during campaigning. This year, we've moved to a new location, we've got some new presenters, and we've let them loose on a whole array of guests, ranging from previous officers, non-sabbatical and sabbatical, some campaign teams and people who ran campaigns last year, and some media hacks who have given us plenty to talk about in the last week and a half. If you would like to watch any of the episodes, then they are available on Guild Television's YouTube channel, and you can also watch them on guildelections.co.uk. However, if you're hooked on our live elections results night coverage right now, then here's a little taster of the Guild Elections updates from last week. So that was a short clip from our Elections Update morning show, which has been running for the last week and a half of campaigning. Now we're going to head over to Beyond Bar to join Chloe.
Hello, I'm with Dave and Ziki right now, who have been enjoying their nights apparently. They've just been telling me how stressful their roles have been. Why was your role so stressful this year?
I think it's the impact of the amount of students that you represent and the time, really. It makes it quite stressful.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd also say that the sort of the level of responsibility that you're given and the amount that's expected of you, both from students, from the university and from the union itself, the guild itself, does put a lot of pressure on you just as quite a young, inexperienced person. But it's very good. It's excellent. It's really good.
So you enjoyed it then?
Yeah, it's been absolutely great fun. Best year ever. I'm sure you'd agree.
I'd say the second best year ever myself. I mean, you know, 2011, 2012 was a pretty impressive year in terms of what was achieved. I mean, wheelie bins was one thing, but let's not go into that.
So what do you think of this year's elections? Do you think it's had a positive impact on the student body being able to vote, or do you think people are kind of reserved this year, especially compared to last year?
I think it's been different in the sense I think candidates have been more innovative and they've gone and spoken to more people as opposed to the traditional cardboard. So it's been a great year for the election, really, just different styles of engaging people.
Do you think that's important for your role?
Yeah, I mean, I've always held true that the election period is kind of a microcosm of the year in office. So the kind of skills that you have to use, sort of your ability to persuade people, work hard, short nights and long days, that's kind of just what being a sab is about. So I think that's definitely been, like, the candidates have definitely showed those skills this year, which is excellent to see. I mean, there were some elections that were uncontested, but I've been away from campus. But from what I've heard, those candidates worked equally hard, so it's good to see.
That's very interesting. So we're just going back to Alice in the studio.
Thank you very much there, Chloe. Now we're going to head over to Johnny and James, who are joined by a past sabbatical candidate.
Thanks, Alice. Hi, Jimmy. How's it going?
Good evening.
Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
So, how's life post-sabbatical officer?
It's very different, it's fair to say. I think being a sabbatical officer is it's something that's very interesting and almost unique in many ways. So adjusting to normal life is very different, but you know, it's not too bad, thank you.
What job are you doing now? And also, did your sabbatical role help you get that job?
I think it very much did, because I'm now working another students' union at Brunel University, basically looking after all the sports clubs and societies. So I think it did. Although it's very different being a staff member, I must point out, than being a SAB, but it did help. Thank you, Johnny.
Okay. So coming back here, sort of 2 years ago or so, can you see the change that you've created in all the results of all your hard work?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't want to sort of like overplay the work that I did, because you only have 1 year. But it's nice to see the Vice President of Sport has now become the Vice President of Sport and Nutrition, which I seem to remember was the result of a very heated Guild Council debates. But yeah, so it's good to see that. But I think every sabbatical officer each year has some achievements, and it's good to come back and see my few achievements, I suppose.
With only 5,357 people voting this year, do you think that's disappointing compared to your own year's election turnout?
Well, obviously, I think it depends year on year. There are so many different... As a sabbatical candidate in 2 different sabbatical elections, found out that sort of sabbatical sort of turnout and non-sabbatical turnout depends year on year, and there's so many different factors that affect it. So it's difficult to pinpoint exactly why that is. Obviously, it depends on how many candidates, but there are so many different reasons that affect it that it's very difficult to tell. So obviously, I'd as many votes as possible, but you know, it's hard to tell.
Cool. So you were sort of famous for promoting Park Run
yes.
at the local park.
Yes. Just about to say that.
So do you want to have the opportunity just to tell our viewers about Park Run?
Yes, well, actually, it's funny you should mention that, because I actually did it this morning for the first time back in Birmingham. But obviously there are 180 different events roughly around the UK and more abroad, and it's a fantastic participatory event that's open to all runners, including Alice, Johnny and you, James.
Thank you.
Well, brilliant. Thanks a lot. And now I think we're going back to Chloe and Bjorma.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here with Julie Le. I wanted to ask you about your campaign. How did you feel it went this year?
I think everyone did so well. Like, I'm so happy that I did it, and yeah, I think it went great. I don't think I could have done anything more.
It looked like quite good fun, and it looked like the candidates got on well. Was that the case?
Yeah. We all did. Like, we got on so well. There was a group of us, and I just wouldn't have met them if it wasn't through campaigning. I don't think so. And I made such good friends, and I just can't wait to see them next year.
Did you feel you gained kind of good skills from doing this campaign, because it's such a short amount of time we have to work quite intensively?
It's 10 days of hard work. It is the most exhausting 10 days of my life, and I just never thought in my wildest dreams that I could have done it. So I've just proven to myself that I'm quite strong, so yeah.
That's always a good thing. That's always nice. Are you looking forward to being able to relax tonight and being able to kind of...
Yeah. I didn't sleep well last night, and I just can't wait to actually get in my bed and sleep properly.
Did you get any sleep last night?
No, because I kept dreaming about campaigning. I kept dreaming that I was putting up signs, and then I kept dreaming that like they all went, and no.
Now I've got to ask this question: how many Jaffa cakes do you think you've eaten in total in the last 10 days?
I've eaten a lot. Like, it was my breakfast, lunch and dinner, but then I gave it up for Lent, so yeah.
So you're gonna like purge yourself a bit now, yeah? Did you enjoy it, or would you do it again if you kind of had the opportunity, or do you think that once is kind of enough to take its toll on you?
I would do it again because I care that much. Yes, yeah, I would do it again.
Are you looking forward to the elections just now, going back into it?
I am looking forward to it, but I'm scared. I'm so nervous. I just don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know.
Well, I think you're allowed to be nervous. Thank you very much for letting me speak to you, and we're going back to Alice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chloe, there in Biorma Bar. Now, thank you very much for all the interviews that we've had so far tonight. Now, all evening, I have been asking you for your opinions on the results using the hashtag on Twitter, ResultsNight, also getting in touch with us on Facebook or sending us an email at elections@guildtv.co.uk. Now, we read out some of your comments a little bit earlier on in the show, but we're going to read some more for you now, and I'm going to, ask for your opinions again, guys, because, that's your role as political analysts. So someone's commented on the interview we did with Tim Lucas a few minutes ago, and they said he's absolutely the best person to speak to about cardboard. We remember last year. Guys, do you remember Tim's campaign last year?
Yes, well, I lived with him. I still do. And I remember the house just being full of cardboard for months before the campaign. So it was a relief to have the campaign start and get the cardboard out of the house, but also for it to finish and just to be able to relax. So yeah, he's definitely the person to ask about cardboard.
Luke Reynolds, who is actually a previous Vice President of Welfare at this Guild of Students, he said that this is probably the worst turnout in 5 years. Has anyone got any comments on this? What do you think about that, guys?
As we said before, I think there are lots of different factors. I think one of them is, in fact, the recent Defend Education protests. I think that they've kind of shown the Guild to be a political organisation, a very partisan organisation. And for most people, I feel that a students' union should represent a deal at university, getting things for cheaper, getting involved in societies, fun, representation, but on a very much a personal ground, not just, I believe that we should be following this political party or that political party, but if you're actually in real trouble. And I think that the recent political protests have kind of just ostracised lots of students.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair to say. I think a few of the candidates this year sort of reflected that apathy. It's the word that we keep coming back to. And that's been reflected in the votes, to be honest.
Thank you very much for your comments there, guys. We're now going to go back to Chloe, who's in Biorma Bar.
Hi, we're here with Molly. I just wanted to quickly ask, how's your year been?
Really great. I love it. It's being a SAB is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and there's almost no words to really properly describe it, apart from the fact that it's just been exhilarating and such a massive learning curve.
We've been hearing that a lot lately. How do you feel you can support the people running right now? Because it seems like quite a kind of scary position to put yourself into.
It's a hugely scary position to put yourself into. I mean, even now, a year later, as they announced the interval, I felt my stomach flip just as it had this time last year. And I just thought, well, it's not even my election. But yeah, the only thing is that to say to the teams is that they have done absolutely everything they can. They should all be incredibly proud of themselves and all of the work that they've done. There's nothing more that they could have done, so they should just sort of take stock and be pleased with themselves and try not to beat themselves up about things.
Do you feel like they'll be able to kind of continue the policies that you guys have been starting? Because I know there's been quite a lot of groundwork being made over the last few years into kind of creating the Guild and running.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope so. We've also got a really great staff here at the Guild of Students who are really great at empowering you as an officer. When you come into office, inevitably you're about 20, 21, 22. You've done all of this stuff in the Guild, but it's the first time that you're put in such a position of responsibility. And in terms of ensuring continuity and empowering you and supporting you, the staff here cannot be faulted. They're absolutely incredible, and we're so lucky to have them.
Really, it's quite interesting to have that insight, because we know there's been like a lot of coverage about kind of being able to communicate between the SAB officers and the staff at the Guild themselves. So do you feel that there are strong communications there, and that it's just not kind of coming through to the other student body, and it's just kind of being misled along the way?
I do think it's massive, the communication that goes on between the staff and the SABs, and the non-SABs as well, actually. We wouldn't be able to do our jobs half as well as we would. In fact, almost not at all without the staff. And you know, I think sometimes it is difficult because the staff are not elected, they are not representatives, so for any flack that there might be, then absolutely we are in the firing line, and that's what you sign up to when you sign up to the job, when you stand for election. But in terms of flack for staff, I don't think so. They do their absolute best, and they are fabulous.
You got a soft spot for them. They help you out, you help them out.
There's such a lot of, you know, there's a really, really great atmosphere. You can have a really good laugh, and they're really fun.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to me, and I'll send you back to Johnny and James. Thank you.
So, congratulations on your new role.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
I was incredibly impressed by how large and massive and really vibrant your campaign was, especially because you weren't running against any other candidates. Why did you decide to really kind of grab it and say, let's really do this?
Thank you very much. I guess I'm part of Guild Council at the moment, so there's obviously been a lot of talk about the Democratic Structures Review and the role that non-sabbatical officers have. And I guess one of the things people have been speaking about is perhaps how their roles will be brushed under the carpet, perhaps, if they're gotten rid of. And I thought, well, there's no point saying that and having that as an argument, and then when it comes to campaigning, they don't really put themselves forward or show themselves on campus at all. At the end of the day, if they're important roles, which I do think they are, then they should be publicised as much as the sabbatical officers. And obviously, the sabbatical officer role is very different to the non-sabbatical officer role. But I just think that it's, you know, students are voting for you. If you get as many votes as you can, that's a great tool to use as in your time in office, I guess. So I thought, engage people. It's fun. It was a great week. It was so much fun. And the team, great. If you have a great team behind you, you know, it makes it a lot easier.
It's great to hear sort of the enthusiasm you've got for the role, and sort of think it showed coming through on your campaign.
Definitely.
So I guess a big question that most of the non-sab sort of roles have is, how are you planning on fitting that around your degree? Sort of you've obviously got your studies to do at the same time.
Well, I'm a medical student, so that was kind of a big concern. I'm taking sort of a year aside next year where I go and join a separate degree in biomedical science. So, I mean, it might be naive to think that it's going to be slightly easier, but I've always liked to be busy and liked to do lots of things at once. So, you know, the campaign was a busy week, but hopefully I'll just try my best, get some advice from the previous RF officer, make it work. You know, if you're enthusiastic about it, it will work out. It will be great.
Is there a policy or an event that you're most excited about getting into place, getting in work next year?
Yeah. So the Interfaith week is, I think, just a great week. I've been involved in some of the events last year, and the tent is just fabulous. It's such a great, vibrant way of bringing people in, educating people. People don't want to hear a formal speech on why racism is a bad thing. People know racism is a bad thing, but this is very interactive, very culturally diverse. So hopefully just expanding on that week, thinking about campaigns that can be run. For example, there's something that I came across called a Did You Know campaign, where you basically plaster campus with you know, sayings which show how cultures are very different but also very similar, like, you know, between Judaism and Islam, they share so much because of the nature of their faith, and people don't know about that and have very preconceived prejudices and ignorances about it. So hopefully by starting up some sort of campaign where people can just be informally educated about their religions, cultures, faith, things like that.
Okay, thank you. If your campaign was anything to show for, you've got a great year ahead of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So we're going to be heading up to Bjorma Bar, I believe, with our roving reporter.
Look at it.
I'm here with the Frankie Says Relax team. You did a lot of innovative campaigning on campus. How did it go for you? Did you feel it was successful, and did you feel it was appreciated by the student body?
I think a personal favourite was the shed. I think we got a lot used to that when it started raining. And then the sofa came quite in handy as well.
Yeah, the shed. I saw someone running into that to kind of break it down.
Yeah, basically we decided that after all the effort we put in, we just needed a release at the end, and we thought that it'd be quite entertaining to, I mean, they wanted me to end up in hospital and see how hard I could hit it, but I'm joking. It was a good release at the end of it all.
Ending up in hospital, that's a great start for our welfare team. I just wanted to ask you, in terms of kind of background support, what do you feel like you added to it? What did you feel that you kind of took up as a role for volunteering almost? What was the question?
Absolutely everything. I think all of us together put in like an unbelievable amount of time, and like, obviously Frankie's an incredible candidate, but I think and like he's obviously the front of the campaign, but I think like all of us, everyone on this campaign team tried really hard. It's not just us, like we're just standing here right now. But
we became like a massive team, and that was like the thing I think that like pushed us all through
Probably a better word. Family.
And personally, like I think it made it like more fun for the rest of us, like knowing that we had like such a great support base.
Just an agency was watching. I'm really sorry, but it's not going to be a good piece of work.
Yeah, no one was stressed. We just had like a really great time.
So how long have you been working on it? Just briefly.
About like up to
December.
Okay, well,
yeah, probably about since December.
Some of us like maybe a little bit before that. We had like a couple of like stuff before that sorted out.
Competition, Jack.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we're just going back to Alice, I think, in the studio. Thank you.
Thank you to Chloe there in Biorma Bar, who is joined by some members of Frankie Greenwell's campaign team. So in a few minutes, we're going to be heading over to the Deb Hall for those all-important officer sabbatical results for 2014. But first, I'm going to run you through the sabbatical officer board one more time, the individuals who are running and what positions they're running for. It's a two-horse race for Vice President of Activities and Development. We have Wadim Wezalek and Stuart Found. Bethan Dovey is running uncontested for the Vice President of Democracy, Resources and Sustainability. Your candidates for Vice President of Education are Joe Armour, Dan Bellamy and Deborah Hermans. Jack Mabley is running uncontested for Vice President of Housing and Community. And Molly Brown is also running uncontested for Vice President of Sport and Nutrition. There are 5 candidates running for the Vice President of Welfare, including Helen Dunnett-Orridge, Frankie Greenwell, Julie Le Desma, Themis Pagadis and Connie Parkin. And finally, running for President this year is Maximilian Shapiro, Benjamin Puster, Edward Sainsbury, George Derbyshire, and rerunning is the current President of the Guild of Students, Poppy Wilkinson. And don't forget, of course, that RON, which stands for Reopen Nominations, is also standing as a candidate in all of these sabbatical officer elections. Now, we're going to go back to read some of the social media comments which are coming through tonight. And one of my personal favourites, which has come through tonight, is from Torin Pocock, which says, Julie Jeffkate Le Desma should be running as the Vice President of Sport and Nutrition. Way to make the best use of the new nutrition remit. What do you think of that one, guys?
I mean, how healthy are Jaffa cakes, really? I guess if they're part of a balanced diet, it's all fine, isn't it?
I believe they're technically biscuits, but I'm not sure how that affects how healthy they are.
Someone has also commented, Carly Thomas here, I think he was a member of Carnival Rag, has said, Tetris Tim for President. Not sure that's terribly achievable anymore, as I think Tim is finally leaving the university, hopefully in a couple of days.
Hopefully, but he's still here.
I mean, yeah, he's graduated, but he's still come back. I mean, way to cling on, Tim, way to cling on.
And we've had lots of comments tonight from people saying great coverage by Guild Television. So thank you very much for watching and keep tweeting throughout the night. Leave us a message on our Facebook page or send us an email at elections@guildtv.co.uk. But also, there's also the Burn FM coverage from the night. So if people want to tune into that while we go over to the Deb Hall, then please support Burn FM, who are also collaborating with us tonight. And also, I'm sure Red Brick will be following on later on from the results tonight with some of their views as well. So guys, any predictions, can I ask, for the sabbatical officer positions?
I mean, shall we run through them? So, President, who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to say Poppy.
I think Poppy might just have it. I think it's by far the closest. I think it's between Poppy, Ed and George. I actually have a theory that I think that if you ask someone who do you think's running for a position, and the
Guys,
first people
I'm sorry,
that they say,
I'm going to have to stop you there because we're going to head back to Deb Hall for the results of the sabbatical officer team.
Welcome back. We now move on to the results for the sabbatical officer positions. I invite Vicky Harris, the current Vice President of Sport, to announce the first position.
sabbatical position to be announced will be the Vice President of Sport and Nutrition. The candidates in this election are Molly Brown and reopen nominations. There were 3,379 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 1,689.5 votes. In the first round of voting, Ron, reopen nominations, received 400 votes. Molly Brown received 2,979 votes. I therefore declare that Molly Brown is duly elected the Guild of Students Vice President of Sport and Nutrition for 2014-2015.
Prepare much of a speech, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who's helped me out this week. It's been the longest 10 days ever, and hopefully I won't have to do anything like that again in a job interview. But I'd just like to say to all the other candidates, I've really admired how hard people have worked, especially the contested roles. I think none of us really appreciated how hard it was, and we've kept each other going, so good luck to everyone tonight. Thank you.
I now invite Molly Wright, current Vice President Activities and Development, to announce the results of the next position.
Thank you very much. It is my birthday. So, to announce the second sabbatical position to be announced will be the Vice President of Activities and Development. The candidates in this election are Stuart Never Lost Found, Vadim Where's Vadim Veselek, and reopen nominations. There were 3,265 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the initial quota for this election was 1,632.5 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 436 votes. Stuart Never Lost Found received 1,256 votes. Vadim Where's Vadim Veselek received 1,573 votes. As no candidate had reached the initial quota, the election went to a second round with reopen nominations being eliminated. In the second round of voting, the quota was 1,632.5. Stuart Never Lost Found reached 1,329 votes. Vadim Where's Vadim Veselek received 1,652 votes. I therefore declare that Vadim Where's Vadim Veselek is duly elected the Guild Students Vice President of Activities and Development for 2014-15.
It's really hard to say something while standing here, so you guys who still have to wait, I really feel bad for you. It's very hard to say. As I said, it's been an amazing 10 days, and yeah, I don't know what to say. Literally, I don't know what to say. Thank you everyone who supported me, who voted for me in the first place. I couldn't make it without my lovely team. So yeah, just thank you. Thank you, and guys, you hold strong, so have to vote. Yeah, I'm not going to cry. just to make it simple. Yeah, thank you very, very much.
I now invite Tom Ragg, the current Vice President of Democracy and Resources, to announce the results of the next position.
The third sabbatical officer position to be announced will be the Vice President, Democracy, Resources and Sustainability. The candidates in this election are Bethan, Lovey-Dovey and reopen nominations. There were 3,696 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 1,848 votes. In the first round of voting, Ron, reopen nominations, received 642 votes. Bethan, Lovey-Dovey received 3,054 votes. I therefore declare that Bethan, Lovey-Dovey is duly elected as my successor, the Guild of Students Vice President, Democracy, Resources and Sustainability.
Whoops, what have I done? Okay, so just to say thank you to a couple of people. First off, to Tim, who's in Biorma, for sort of giving me the inspiration to do this in the first place. Second of all, to my amazing campaign team. Particular shout-outs go to Ian for being my favourite Guild hack. And to Lawrence Thompson, my amazing boyfriend and campaign manager. I love you so much. Thank you. And just thank you to everyone that voted for me. Commiserations to my opponent, Ron. And hopefully next year it won't just be one person standing, because I'm going to make the position very, very sexy. Thank you, guys.
I now invite Dave Charles, the current Vice President Housing and Community, to announce the results of the next position.
The fourth sabbatical position to be announced will be the Vice President, Housing and Community. The candidates in this election are Captain Jack Mabley and reopen nominations. There were 3,549 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 1,774.5 votes. In the first round of voting, Ron, reopen nominations, received 496 votes. Captain Jack Mabley received 3,053 votes. I therefore declare Captain Jack Mabley is duly elected Guild of Students Vice President, Housing Community 2014-15.
Thanks everyone. I want to thank everyone's vote to start with. Although it was uncontested, I did put my all into it and I'm glad I did that. But I want to say a particular thank you to the campaign team, the TC girls, Emily, Olivia and Sophia, but also to the other contestants. I wouldn't have been able to do it without your contestants. We all supported each other throughout the 10 days and it was the worst 10 days of my life, but the best at the same time. For the rest of the night, I want to say to the other candidates, may the odds be ever in your favour.
I now invite Jethro Lee, current Vice President Welfare, to announce the results of the next position.
The fifth sabbatical position to be announced will be the Vice President Welfare. The candidates in this election are Helena Dunnett-Orridge, Frankie Says Relax, Greenwell, Julie Le Desma, Themis Pagudis, Care Bear Connie Parkin, and reopen nominations. There were 3,975 valid votes in this election, therefore the quota for election was 1,987.5 votes. In the first round of voting, reopen nominations received 96 votes. Helena Dunnett-Orridge received 357 votes. Frankie Says Relax Greenwell received 1,966 votes. Julie Le Desma received 1,069 votes. Themis Pagudis received 257 votes. And Care Bear Connie Parkin received 230 votes. As no candidate had reached the initial quota, the election went to a second round with reopen nominations being eliminated. In the second round of voting, the quota was 1,987.5 votes. Helena Dunnett-Orridge received 359 votes. Frankie Says Relax Greenwell received 1,974 votes. Julie Le Desma received 1,072 votes. Themis Pagudis received 266 votes. And Care Bear Connie Parkin received 232 votes. As no candidate had reached the quota, the election went to a third round with Care Bear Connie Parkin being eliminated. In the third round of voting, the quota was 1,987.5 votes. Helena Dunnett-Orridge received 382 votes. Frankie Says Relax Greenwell received 2,059 votes. Julie Le Desma received 1,139 votes, and Themis Pagudis received 290 votes. I therefore declare that Frankie Says Relax Greenwell is duly elected the Guild of Students Vice President Welfare for 2014 to 2015.
Wow. I don't really know what to say. I didn't really think this through. I did promise my campaign team weeks and weeks ago that if I won, I would try and thank them as much as possible. So here we go. Jack, both Ford and Dart, Jamie Vickery, Georgie, even though you said you weren't going to help, Jenny, Steph, Salter, Farley. I'm sure I'm going to miss people off, and it's going to be really embarrassing. Thank you all so much for everyone that helped. I'm honestly, I can't believe it. I just didn't think this would happen in my wildest dreams. So thank you all so much. And yeah, thank you very much.
I now invite Hattie Craig, current Vice President Education, to announce the results for the next position.
The sixth sabbatical position to be announced will be the Vice President Education. The candidates in this election are Average Joe Armour, Dan with a Plan Bellamy, Deborah Hermans, and reopen nominations. There were 4,180 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 2,090 votes. In the first round of voting, Ron, reopen nominations, received 178 votes. Average Joe Armour received 2,541 votes. Dan with a Plan Bellamy received 386 votes. Deborah Hermans received 1,075 votes. I therefore declare that average Joe Armour is duly elected the Guild of Students Vice President Education 2014-2015.
Whoa, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much to all of my campaign team, everyone who voted and everyone who's put up with me for the last 10 days. That includes my amazing housemates, my campaign team, my campaign manager, Chris. Those numbers are incredible. I can't believe it. Thank you so much to Dan and Deborah, who have been great candidates to run alongside, who have really worked and made a really interesting debate alongside. So thank you so much. I really have no idea what else to say. Thank you.
I now invite Tom Ragg, current Vice President Democracy and Resources, to announce the results for the final position.
Well, the final position to be announced this evening will be that of President. The candidates in this election are Curious George Derbyshire, Ben Pirate Pooster, Edward Sainsbury, Mr. Maximilian A. Shapiro Esquire, Poppy Wilkinson, and reopen nominations. There were 4,672 valid votes in this election. Therefore, the quota for election was 2,336 votes. In the first round of voting, Ron, reopen nominations, received 79 votes. Curious George Derbyshire received 627 votes. Ben Pirate Pooster received 684 votes. Edward Sainsbury received 1,082 votes. Mr. Maximilian A. Shapiro Esquire received 318 votes, and Poppy Wilkinson received 1,882 votes. As no candidate had reached the initial quota, the election went to a second round, with reopen nominations and Mr. Maximilian A. Shapiro Esquire being eliminated. In the second round of voting, the quota was 2,336. Curious George Derbyshire received 686 votes. Ben Pirate Pooster received 753 votes. Edward Sainsbury received 1,144 votes. Poppy Wilkinson received 1,976 votes. As no candidate had reached the quota, the election went to a third round, with Curious George Derbyshire being eliminated. In the third round of voting, the quota was 2,336. Ben Pirate Pooster received 854 votes. Edward Sainsbury received 1,394 votes. Poppy Wilkinson received 2,215 votes. As no candidate had reached the quota, the election went to a fourth round, with Ben Pirate Pooster being eliminated. In the fourth round of voting, the quota was 2,336 votes. Edward Sainsbury received 1,786 votes. Poppy Wilkinson received 2,447 votes. I therefore declare that Poppy Wilkinson is duly elected as the Guild of Students President for 2014-15.
Not going to blow a raspberry this time round.
But I would just like to say a massive, massive well done and thank you to George, Ben, Ed and Max. You all gave very different campaigns and you made it extremely challenging, and it made a very different campaign, and you should be so proud of the campaigns that you run. I'm extremely proud to be re-elected, particularly on International Women's Day. I am extraordinarily proud. I'd also like to thank my campaign team, Meg and Catherine for the early mornings, Rob, and everyone that helped. I'd just like to say a huge thank you, and thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a good night. I'd also like to say thank you to Jack, Julie and Joe, because I would not have been able to get through it without the three of you, and I'm extremely proud of all three of you, and you should be so proud of the campaigns that you ran. Thank you very much.
So, that concludes the announcement of the results in the 2014 Guild Officer Team elections. Can we please give a warm round of applause to all candidates for their hard work campaigning over the last week and a half. Congratulations to all the winning candidates. On behalf of the 2013-14 Guild Officer Team, I wish you all the best for a successful and fun year ahead. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Safe journey onwards, and we'll see you next year. Can I ask that all winning candidates come to the front for their official photograph? Thank you.
Guild Television's coverage of the live election results night. We have just revealed all our winning candidates for the sabbatical officer team in 2014, and we're now going to run through those successful candidates this year. Vice President of Activities and Development is Vadim Veselek. Bethan Dovey is the Vice President of Democracy, Resources and Sustainability. The Vice President of Education is Joe Armour. Jack Mabley is Vice President of Housing and Community. And Molly Brown is the Vice President of Sport and Nutrition. The Vice President of Welfare is Frankie Greenwell. And the President is Poppy Wilkinson. So those are your sabbatical officer team for 2014. Now let's go to Twitter to see what you guys have all been saying about the results tonight. So tweet from Erin Lee again saying, congratulations to Poppy, you did it, Guild President for another year. And Simon Lee again has also said, Poppy Wilkinson re-elected, is this a first? Guys, can you answer that question for Simon?
No, it's not a first. One other candidate has run for 2 terms, and that was Johnny Davis for Welfare.
Yes.
And his second term was 4 years ago when we first joined the university.
Yeah, but first presidential candidate to rerun.
Yeah.
So I think that counts as a first.
Yeah, I guess.
So we've had a tweet again, and someone has said, is the left in decline or on its way out entirely? So what do you think to that, guys?
Well, it's hard to tell the difference, to be honest, whether they're just declining or whether they're going to come back after a decline. But I think it's fair to say there was a lack of an organised slate, but whether that's because of the results of the slate last year, I think a lot of voters were able to clearly see candidates that they didn't necessarily feel they agreed with, so just voted against them, sort of. I think that was clear in the case of Hattie and Tom's election.
I think one of the problems with referring to them as the left is that lots and lots of students have left-wing ideals and are left-wing when they vote in elections, but they don't align themselves with groups like Defend Education. And I feel that, as I said earlier, that it is about an ostracisation of lots of students, because they feel that the actions that were taken on campus at the Defend Education protest recently, and the graffiti on Old Joe, really did speak a lot to lots of students on campus.
Yeah, if I recall, in my first year, it was when the tuition-free protests were originally happening, and there were lots of students that went on protests to the one that was infamous for the Millbank Tower activities. And I feel that because the Guild didn't sort of stand out against those protests or the sort of splinter protests like it did with Defend Education, it allowed the message to be lost. So it's good to see the Guild taking a strong stance.
I think that's the main point, that Defend Education and other lefty candidates don't try and engage other students into their protests. They say, we're going to protest with our friends and it's going to be big. But if they tried to get more people involved, perhaps their policies and ideals would kind of come through more in political voting.
So do you think that the approach that the Vice President of Education, obviously Joe Armour, has been elected for next year, do you think this might change in the coming year?
I'd hope it could, to be honest, because like Jenny said, I'd say the average student is generally a sort of a left-wing student. But whether they sort of engage with the Guild, it's obvious they don't, to be honest.
Average Joe, supporting the average student, let's hope so. I think that it's quite clear in his campaign that he was very much up for communication rather than protest. I think this is a really positive step in the right direction for education at Birmingham.
Well, it will certainly be an interesting year for that position. We've had a comment on Twitter here from Harry Chitty. He says, Frankie says Relax had the best campaign. Sofas, sheds, cardboard, spam. He dominated campus. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that's why he won?
Definitely. He was by far the biggest campaign. He looked like a presidential candidate, the size of it. His campaign team were always very happy, very cheery. It looked like a very fun place to be.
Yeah, I think what's important with campaigns is that the candidate's enthusiasm comes through, and that's certainly what happened, because it wasn't just cardboard. It was some originality there that was fun and engaging and got his message across. It would have been interesting to see how he fared against some bigger campaigns, perhaps like last year, because it has been a recurring theme, the size of the campaigns. So it's hard to tell exactly how big it was, but it was certainly a successful and big one, and I'd congratulate him for it and for his new position.
Definitely.
Definitely. Well, we wish Frankie all the best for next year. We've had another tweet from Tarquin Pritchard, who said, you wonder if there had been fewer candidates for president with more concentrated and better campaigns, would Poppy have won? What are your thoughts on that one? That's an interesting...
I mean, that's just saying if the election was different, would there have been a different winner? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, if you could say that about anything, including like general elections.
I think a problem that an incumbent candidate faces, especially when they run originally in their final year, is a lot of their original friends have graduated, so you wouldn't have the base for a campaign team that you would otherwise. So perhaps she struggled with that this year, but was able to, well, she still pulled through and got the position.
I think when we look at Poppy's campaign, one of the key themes that you see is a lot of reliance on understanding who she is already. So most of her cardboard were just Poppy's. No writing, no position, no name. It was just, you already know who I am, vote for me.
So a strong image there on campus from Poppy Wilkinson, Vice President of Activities and Development. Any surprises there, guys?
Well, I think we... do you want to quickly explain about our guessing game beforehand?
Okay, so James and I had a competition to guess. Before, we had a competition to guess how many of the positions we could guess and all the orders. And we had the basic rules of if you get the first person, or get the person who wins, you get 5 points, and any other person in a correct position, you get 1 point. And of course, I have won with 46 to 37. So I am, of course, the most dominant and wonderful political analyst out of the two of us, but James tried his best, so that's what's important.
But what I was sort of leading that to was we both got we got the results of the election right. We didn't get I didn't certainly, as much as Johnny did, got the order of the sort of second, third place so much, but basically I think everyone was able to call who won which position.
Definitely. I think that President was the only contentious one. VPOD, Wadim did a bigger campaign, I feel, cardboard-wise, than Stuart. I feel that perhaps one of the downfalls in the election, maybe he could have got more votes, is he did a lot of reliance on little W signs with red and white stripes, but they didn't necessarily have his name on. And it's hard, if people don't know what the election is about, then how do they know who to vote for, apart from someone beginning with W?
And obviously there were two positions which are uncontested. Obviously probably no surprise there that Ron didn't win those. How do you think those two candidates are going to fare in their roles next year?
Well, I guess 3 actually. Sport.
Oh, 3, sorry. Yes, I got that wrong.
VPDRS and
well.
HC.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they'll have the confidence that they were the only person that stood up and said, yes, I think I can do a good job at this. I think all of them didn't see as many Rons as last year's uncontested candidates saw. So they should be able to take that forward to do a good job.
No, I don't know much about the Vice President of Sports and Nutrition's manifesto and how achievable those points are. But I feel that VPHC's manifesto, a lot of it's, we should get more police in Selly Oak and we should get more wheelie bins. Well, we've been campaigning for wheelie bins for 9 years. We did get them over after 9 years, but I don't think we'll just be able to get more at the click of a finger. And I don't think we tell the police what to do, so I don't know how successful he's going to be. I think that Bethan has done quite well in having a lot of policies which are already going to happen, so I think she's going to have an easy year. That's what I think.
Would easy be the right word? Perhaps they could easily complete their manifesto, but I think it would be fair to say that there's never an easy SAB year. They'll be able to complete their policies that they aim to do.
Well, that is what I meant, I guess. You're nitpicking over my small technicalities, I guess.
So, guys, I guess leading on from that question, what challenges do you think our officer team face next year?
Well, I think the big ones, the Democratic Structures Review, that we've heard a lot about that both in Beth's manifesto and pretty much all of the other candidates. So that's got to be voted on and implemented. What other big things are there?
Well, there's always going to be a scandal. Every year there's a scandal, whether it's getting rid of Ed Bauer, to protests and people getting arrested, to Sombrero Gate. Something's going to happen because students want something to happen.
But perhaps with having a president for 2 years, Poppy will be able to take the experiences from this year on with her, because although sadly you do see a disengagement with officers towards the end of the year, you see how much they've grown as a person and how they can sort of step back and take the wider view. So hopefully it'll be good to see that her taking that forward.
I'm personally worried that Poppy might be quite disengaged after this year. I've known a lot of sabbatical candidates in the past, and at the end of their year in office, they often have quite a realistic but pessimistic view about the Guild. They're not looking to change the big things. They know what can be achieved and what can't, and I don't think they fight for that extra inch.
But perhaps there's a reason that Poppy re-ran, and that's because she's still got that fight left in her, and I look forward to seeing that come back.
That is a fair point.
Definitely. And one comment we've got on here, I won't name the sabbatical candidate who said it, but she did run this year, and she did say that she was surprised that she got more votes than Ron, even though she didn't really run a campaign. Do you think there's a problem with people applying to run for the elections and then perhaps realising they don't want to run for that position, or being offered a job perhaps to have next year? Do you think there's a problem with that that process?
It's a stupid rule. I mean, yeah. if you want to go out the election, you should be able to at any point say, I don't want to run in this election. It's not going to harm anyone, is it?
If we go back to the wonderful vice presidential hustings as hosted by Guild TV and Johnny Dolan, you may remember we weren't able to ask the welfare candidates any questions because there was this candidate wasn't there, and so that obviously creates a barrier towards engaging the rest of the candidates.
Definitely, guys. So we are now going to go over to one of the winning sabbatical candidates for this year, Bethan Dovey, who is the new Vice President of Democracy, Resources and Sustainability. Guys, what do you think of her campaign first before we go and speak to her?
I personally feel that although Bethan was unopposed, I feel that her campaign was quite scaled back. I think that there are some even non-sabbatical campaigns that were larger than hers. I don't know. It'll be interesting to review.
If we look at the votes, though, I think she won, obviously.
Yep.
But Ron was nowhere near as close to her as we've seen in past years. So perhaps you just missed the campaign.
Maybe. There's always that chance.
So, guys, I think we've now got Bethan joining us now. So over to you guys for our interview.
So, congratulations, Beth.
Hi, thank you very much.
So, how does it feel?
Really weird. I still wasn't expecting to necessarily win, just because I was unopposed, and I still actually worked very, very hard. You might not have seen my stuff, Johnny, but I was doing a lot of grassroots stuff, door knocking. I was out at Flyer Rally almost every single morning at 8:45, doing lecture shout-outs during the day. I did work very hard. I worked just as hard as I would have done if I was opposed. There's no point not doing otherwise. I prepared for a campaign to be opposed, and that's the campaign I ran.
What's the first thing that you're really excited about doing when you get into office next year?
Okay, so I'm really excited about taking on the rest of the work that Tom's been doing on the Democratic Structures Review, as that was one of my main manifesto points. It's the main thing I want to work on. I need to hit the ground running with it because it's already in sort of motion. It's already starting to happen. So I'm keeping up with it now, kind of doing some pre-work before I get into the role. I'm going to try and make sure I'm heavily involved with all of the work that happens over the coming term with the DSR.
So describe how it was feeling in the Deb Hall. Was it sort of tense with sort of the different results coming out?
It was interesting. The thing that really interested me was the welfare. For some reason, the welfare candidate election, everyone was very quiet when that was happening, because I think it was quite a surprise result for people, for someone to sort of win by so many votes. And apart from that, it was quite friendly for the most part. People were clapping. I know in previous years we've had people booing. There was a little bit of that earlier when the returning officer came on, but mostly people were very friendly, very civil, which is nice. That's how it should be.
As James said earlier, you did smash Ron out of the competition. Why do you think, what policy do you think most engaged students when you were talking to them?
See, I would love to say the Scrap Guild Council one, but unfortunately the one policy when I went round door knocking that I found that drew most people in was my fixed fab tickets policy, which I generally thought was, a good policy, but it's quite a small, quick fix that I thought would make a difference. But the fact that so many students saw that as more important to them in terms of Guild engagement than changing the democratic structures, I thought was quite telling of how poor the Guild has been in the past about engaging people politically with the Guild. However, if fab is the only way that people are currently engaged with the Guild, then we do need to make it easier for them to access it. So that's fine.
So do you think that your work will reflect the fact that more students were interested in that policy? Will you spend more time focusing? Obviously, if you completed that one earlier, you know that students are more interested in that sort of thing rather than, although it's in your title, democracy. So will you focus more on sort of the entertainment side of thing, I suppose?
I think that the entertainment side of the Guild, while we do have fab, we are missing sort of alternative entertainments. I would like to potentially consult the student body on things that we can do differently, things that we can do to offer them more varied entertainment. Personally, for me, I think that the democracy is my most important part, but I see what you're saying. If a lot of people elected me on the mandate thinking, oh yeah, she's going to fix the fab tickets thing and the resources side of things, maybe I do need to focus on that. And I will make sure that I put good effort into every single role and aspect of the job. I do think, though, that if I can improve the democracy side of things, it'll be easier for people to tell me what needs to change in terms of entertainments. So it's almost like butterfly effect going on there.
Yeah. Is there anything else about entertainments or fab that you want to change? Drink prices, maybe fab tickets? Do you think that other shops should get commission? Or I guess you're wanting to move them all online, are you? Or?
I'd like to move more online. Speaking to some students, a lot of students didn't even know that you could get online tickets. Very few tickets are put online. I'm not sure of the exact number. That's something I'm hoping to find out. I think more should go online. It's more easy accessible. I know that some people who live maybe at home or in halls that are further out, coming to Joe's on a Sunday evening is quite difficult. As I said in my policy, I want to stagger the release of tickets to weekly as well. I didn't include putting more online because I wasn't sure of the numbers yet, and I didn't want to include that without having the proper knowledge, so that's something that I want to look at. In terms of other entertainments, would be interesting to do some more non-alcoholic events potentially if there is demand for that. And also maybe some more daytime events in the Guild would be good, but I'd like to hear what students have to say because it's my job to do what they want.
So what's got to happen between now and when you take office? Are you in your final year?
I am in my final year, yes. So I'm finishing off my degree. I got my dissertation due in very soon and a couple of essays to do, but I've been very on top of my work. I knew that I was going to run in the summer, so I did a lot of work on my dissertation prior to that to make sure that I was ready. Goes to show I'm pretty organised, on top of my stuff.
Thanks a lot. That's all the time we have. We're going to Chloe now in Biorma for more interviews.
Hello, I'm with Ollie, David and Catherine. What did you guys think of the elections?
Well, I've been around on campus, unlike these two, so it's been interesting to sort of see how it's gone on. I think it's been quieter than previous years. We've had less candidates, I think. It took a while for it to get going, but you can't have missed it.
Were you shocked by who was elected?
I guess in some ways yes, in some ways no. It's always quite difficult to guess who's going to actually be successful on the night, but I think they've got a good team going forward next year, and hopefully they'll be able to enact some of their policies, so that should be good.
From your experience, do you think it's changed quite a lot since when you guys were doing it before?
I think it was more difficult for some reason when we were around to get re-elected. But in the last 2 years, like obviously Jimmy in our year tried to get re-elected and unfortunately he didn't manage it. And I'm really proud of Poppy. Maybe it's not easier. That's probably the wrong term. She's probably worked really, really hard to do it. I've not been around on campus, but we're really proud of her. So,
do you think there's a reason behind it for it being achieved now?
There's all sorts of reasons why people sort of would be against re-election. Some people think we'll let someone else have a go. Some people think that the candidates are just better. It's tough when you're going for re-election because all your friends who helped you out the first time round have likely graduated, they're not there anymore. So Poppy's done really, really well to get re-elected.
Do you think it's changed a lot since you did it before?
I guess in terms of, you know, the conditions, the time periods, it's a little bit shorter in terms of the time period, you know, the strains in that sense. So it was really hard for us, and, you know, I don't think it was any less hard for the candidates this year, but, you know, it's a similar kind of prize, it's a similar kind of end game. So, you know, everyone who's campaigned over these last 10 days has, you know, put their effort in and kind of deserves the win that they've got.
We were just speaking about the award ceremony itself. What did you think about it?
Well, it was lacking in chicken.
The buffet wasn't as fabulous as it usually is.
No.
But as always, the staff put a lot of effort into it, and it's a really good night, and it's one you always remember whether you win or not. But I think, yeah, the staff always need to be praised.
And obviously we're going long into Fab and Fresh this evening, which we're very much looking forward to.
Well, thank you very much. We're just going back to Johnny and James.
Hi, we're back again. Firstly, congratulations.
Congrats.
Would you like to introduce yourself and what were you so successful in?
So I'm Molly, and I was running for Vice President of Sport and Nutrition.
I guess you've won it.
Yeah, yeah, I was against Ron, so
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So I hear you're from the winning club?
Yeah,
Is that right?
athletics.
So can we expect to hear lots about park run, just like Jimmy Hughes did?
We'll see. One of my manifesto points actually looks at giving all clubs a bit of a voice. So athletics are really good at being promoted, but some clubs you don't hear about. So I think focus on the ones that you don't hear about, despite being with athletics.
Looking back over your campaign, is there anything that you would have changed at all, or perhaps your campaign or your policies? Is there anything you would have changed?
I think it would have been very different if I'd been contested, because obviously I was safe in the knowledge that I could go home for an hour, have a break, and no one would be out there campaigning. So I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And I think the pressure would have been on a lot more. I still campaigned hard. Like I've looked back on the last 10 days and don't feel like I could have done anything more. Probably found multiple breakdowns, but no, it's been really enjoyable. So yeah.
So you were obviously, like you said, winning just against one. So I suppose you sort of expected to win, but you didn't want to take it for granted. Has it hit home yet that you're going to be spending the next year working for the students here?
Not really. I had multiple nightmares where I didn't beat Ron, so I was like, oh goodness, what happens if it was the case? But no, it hasn't really sunk in yet. I suppose I'll wake up tomorrow, hopefully after a good night's sleep, and it'll hit home. But at the moment, I'm just like, all I can think about is bed.
So, are you staying for Fab?
Probably not. No. I'm so tired.
Which of your policies do you feel kind of students engaged with the most and you got the best reaction with?
A lot of students, particularly those actually involved in sport, were really keen on the online calendar and getting better promotion for smaller clubs, particularly non-Bucks teams. So I went to a lot of sports practices, spoke with non-Bucks clubs, and they feel like they kind of slip through the net. They do competitions where they're winning like UK leagues, but no one knows about it. So the response from sports clubs when I went to discuss my manifesto points was really positive. So I'm looking forward to working with them and get the ball rolling.
Guys, can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay? Obviously, I've done a little bit of work with Guild TV before with sports coverage from the media groups. So how are you going to work with some of the media groups in your year to sort of try and maintain the relationship with UB Sport and maybe covering some of the, obviously, teams that don't get as much coverage, like you said?
Yeah. I think it's got to come partly from within sports clubs themselves. So like athletics, really big sports club, we've got a really big committee. We've got a media person who writes reviews, gets in touch with newspapers, gets in touch with Guild TV. We're really fortunate in that retrospect, but a lot of clubs don't know how to go about contacting people. So I think just making sure that people are aware of that they can contact Guild TV if they've got a particular event coming up that they want coverage at, and being a bit more proactive themselves. So I think it's getting the balance right between clubs approaching Guild TV, Burn FM, and vice versa, really. So being that middle person.
Do you have anything? I have a question if you don't.
Yeah, go for it.
Are there any of the other SABs who've won which their policies have really spoken to you and you'd really like to get involved with?
I think the activities officer who's been elected, obviously a lot of sports clubs are also guild societies. So I think particularly ones about making it easy for room booking, getting more support for societies, I'll definitely be able to get involved with. But I think part of being a stab officer is you get involved with everyone and you have to work as a 7. So I think that everyone who's got elected, in fact, all of the candidates were so passionate about what they were standing for. I have no doubt that they're going to really work hard to achieve those manifestos that they
Okay,
came up with.
Thank you for taking the
very
time
much.
to speak to us. Congratulations again, and I hope you enjoyed catching up on your sleep. I believe we're heading now to our roving reporter, Chloe.
Hi, I'm with Leilani and Jethro. I was wanting to ask you, Leilani, the next LGBTQ officer is saying that you did a very good job this year in term. Do you have any advice for her?
Just to always, with the LGBTQ association and the LGBTQ officer job, it's just always the struggle to try and reach out to more LGBTQ defining students. There's a lot of students out there who are having problems with kind of coming to terms with their sexuality, with their gender identity and their sexuality and sexual orientation. So yeah, that's always just try your best to try and engage with those students is the advice I give to her.
That's good. Now I've got to ask you both, what did you think of the elections yourselves? Did you enjoy them?
Did I enjoy them? No, I thought they were. I thought they were good. I thought we were doing in a positive manner. I'm a bit upset that we didn't do the non-sabbatical officers giving speeches this year, because typically they have been. So I'm a bit unsure why that decision was made. But other than that, I think they went really well. We finished quite early, so yeah.
Yeah, it was quite quick this year almost. I think a lot of people are saying it's been quite a relaxed year for something like that. Do you think that kind of represents the state that Guild politics is in just now?
I think it's always awkward to get the balance between kind of the ceremony part of it and, you know, the celebrating of Guild politics and also, inviting the candidates to say something about how important it was for them to run. I think it was a nice balance this year. It wasn't too heavy in the kind of the ceremony part of it, and that was great, yeah.
That's good. Are you both looking forward to stepping down now and kind of trying something different for a change?
Well, I've still got 5 months left actually in, and this is something that keeps coming up. People keep coming up to me and saying, you know, are you, how do you feel? Are you a bit sad about what's happening? And I say, I've still just got under half my time left in office. So, to be honest, I'm not really thinking about the future yet. I've, completed my manifesto, so now it's about, coming up with some new ideas and leaving some sort of a legacy. I'm looking forward to training the new Vice President Welfare. I think we've got a very capable candidate that's won there.
Sorry, so tonight's been more about kind of passing on the torch as opposed to kind of really finishing it off, just kind of trying to carry on your policies, I guess.
I think it's like a landmark, I guess, in your term in office. And I've really kind of sent my thanks out to a lot of people who supported me during the few months that I've been in office. But at the same time, I guess it's looking forward and saying, yes, I'm going to deliver on manifesto points and just continue my best as I can.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we're just going back to Johnny and James.
So we're joined by our new VPAD-elect. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So you're the first sabbatical elect we've spoken to that was actually in a contested election. So was it nervous going into tonight?
It was very, very nervous actually. Although I had only one counter candidate, it's still very, very nervous experience, I think, for every single candidate that we had in elections, uncontested or not. It's really stressful experience, especially 10 days of very, very hard campaigning, and then the results night. It's a very stressful experience.
Why do you think you won? What was different about your campaign?
It's hard to say. I think you should ask my voters, really. Like, people who voted, I think they voted on policies rather than on the personalities, and I think that's really what matters. I really wanted, despite the fact that I actually had a gimmick, really wanted any voter to read my policies and my counter-candidate policies and decide whether they like my policies or not. So that's all I'm going to say.
So how's the past week and a half been for you? Has it been enjoyable or just nervous and tiring?
It's been both, to be honest. I think it's very, very stressful for every single candidate that took part in the elections. I spoke to a number of candidates and they've all said 10 days is way too long. 7 days should be the optimal, or even 5 days, with 2 days of campaigning and 3 days of voting. It's been enjoyable in terms of I get to know many, many people, and I got to speak to many, many people, but it's very stressful 10 days in my case, that actually woke me up at 5 a.m. and then I got to bed at 9 p.m. in the evening. So it's been 10 days of really hard work.
Who was your +1 for results night, and why did you choose them?
Very hard question. Not really. To be honest, my campaign manager was my +1, and then my really good friend was my other +2 in this case. So I just took them because I knew I could support in them, whatever happened.
Thanks. Back to Chloe.
Stuart, first of all, very well done for your campaign.
Thank you very much.
How do you feel now? Are you
For one thing, I'd like to thank everybody who voted for me. I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful, especially as it ended up being surprisingly close, actually. Vadim ran a solid campaign, and yeah, I'm just really glad that I've actually had a chance to investigate what the kind of political side of the Guild actually is in terms of how it's run and the functionality of this whole other side of it and the elections and things. It's really been an eye-opening experience, so thank you everyone who supported me. I'm really, really grateful for that. Yeah, I always try to run a slightly different campaign. I think I didn't want to put out too much cardboard on around campus. I wanted to do something a bit different. But yeah, I'm just really grateful that that people have been so welcoming as well, considering that I've not really come from much of a background in guild elections and the guild process, really.
Yeah, that's quite nice. I think your campaign was quite different. I saw you walking around with the sign that was nicely painted and things like that. Do you think it was so close because the job itself is quite restricted into like the areas that it goes into? Do you think, or do you think that you were? What do you think?
Well, essentially, I think that the fact that it was so close is really reflective of how different both of our manifestos were. Vadim had a background in guild politics and things, so he knows how the system works. So it's very clear that he's invested a lot into it, and you can clearly tell when he talks that he's got a lot of passion for the guilds and how it runs. And I come from a totally different background in guild drama and kind of some of the guild services that are run in guild groups. So it's just been very, very interesting, really. There was no way that anybody, I think, could have called it at all, just because we've had such different backgrounds. And I've just been very, very privileged, in fact, to have been part of the campaign trail and things. And yeah, be hopefully a different kind of candidate.
But I think you must have gained a lot of it. Could you sum it up in about 3 words?
3 words. Wow, that's quite a limit there.
It's good to limit.
Yeah, I can tell. Something extraordinarily different, I think, is the way that I'd surmise the whole experience. It's just been unique, really, and it's just been wonderful to have to meet so many new people as well. To go door knocking and conquer that fear has been something else. So that's been wonderful.
Well, thank you very much, and we're going back to Johnny and James.
Hi, we're joined by Average Joe, VPE-elect, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So you're the first sort of candidate and campaign manager that's sort of been interviewed by me and Johnny, so I guess first question would be sort of how does it work with you two, and sort of how does it feel to sort of have been a success for your candidate, I suppose? Do you want to go first?
I don't know, it worked in a sort of a very strange way. We both did a lot of the creative stuff, and there was a case of actually, whilst I was out being the candidate, a lot of the logistics work behind it, a lot of the social media stuff that I just couldn't do whilst I was out and about. Chris basically took on the organisational stuff, and that's kind of how we've basically worked it.
Yep.
No, go ahead.
I think it helped that we'd also worked together before on the RA scheme before. A lot of our RA was on the campaign, so we all knew what we worked to as our strengths. So I think that helped a lot. But as Joe said again, that whilst he was out doing the hard work, door knocking, whatever he could do, doing lecture shout-outs, we were back there just backing him up with the social media, which I think was the core of our campaign.
As a physics student, I very much enjoyed your equation signs outside the physics building. And you did have a lot of original publicity, but what in your campaign do you think really marked you out above the other candidates?
I think we had policies which really spoke to the academic concerns of most students, whether that's like missing lectures and being able to catch up, or whether that's just getting their contact time, or just the feedback they received. They were all major things that actually I'd heard way before I complained about myself, and things that I think they really want to see a Vice President of Education address.
So it's good to hear sort of RAs running running to be SABs again, because it was the case many years ago that lots of sabbatical candidates were SABs. How do you feel that the RA scheme sort of influenced sort of you deciding to run to be a sabbatical?
So the RA scheme, when I was on the RA scheme, I worked quite closely with various members of the sabbatical officer team, whether it was the Vice President Housing Community or the Vice President Welfare or the President, on various different things, and actually the sort of skills, knowledge, just how things work and sort of see what they do, sort of really interesting job. So I actually wanted to go do it myself.
Although your campaign was far more a dodgeball theme than an average theme, do you think that you represent the average students more than the other two candidates that you faced?
I feel like I represented a proportion of the students. Like I would never claim to represent every student. There's 28,000, 30,000 students here, and you could never claim to represent everyone here. So actually, I try to represent more people sort of mainstream concerns rather than like an actual group of students, because sort of taking sort of factional sort of approach to stuff doesn't always work.
So this year's VPE has been very supportive of the protests that have been on campus, sort of related to defend education and otherwise. Will you be as supportive, or will you take a stance that's more in line with the statement that was released by the Guild President?
I feel it's very important to support peaceful protest. As Vice President Education, I'd find it very difficult to support any protest which was violent or encouraged vandalism. I think actually that lost a lot of the points that Defend Education were trying to talk about, and actually the debate became about tactics rather than about actual policy, and that was a real problematic issue for their campaign. So I'd take a far different approach to actually the current Vice President Education.
Thanks for talking for us, to us. Now we're going back to Chloe.
I'm with Chris, the Ethics and Environmental Officer. Chris, well done. I just wanted to ask you, what kind of things are you thinking about starting to work on now that you're in your position?
Oh, thank you. Hiya. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out more ethical more on more environmental side of it. So you've got more CO2 initiatives done first. So there's definitely stuff being done at the moment with heat wastage in the Spinney, and as amongst other places on campus as well, in modules of certain courses. So I'd like to do more academic stuff as well with my role, as well as actually making sure, so on another side of it, with the fair pay ratio, which the university just released the other day that they'll be doing for the next 2 years. I'd like to make sure that that's actually solid and it's actually the foundations are correct with that. So that's pretty good. And also start making sure that the Guild is already aware of its businesses that it interacts with, making sure that they're all up to scratch with their ethical policies, making sure they're not sourcing them from bad businesses. And yeah, that's that really in general.
And just quickly, are you relieved that it's over, or are you kind of...
Yes, I'm definitely relieved. It's been a bit of a stressful time, especially obviously doing part of your degree as well. It's just such it makes such an impact on the workload as well, as because you have you don't realise really, I suppose, until you start falling behind a little bit, which I have, how much how much work you do have to do regularly on a regular basis to make it work well. Yeah.
Well, I'm probably falling behind on my degree, and I haven't even campaigned for anything. Thank you very much. I think we're going back to the studio.
So, we're joined by Jack Mabley, now VPHC elect, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So, you've been an RA in the past, yeah. I hear. So, are you going to be a super RA, as it were?
I think Dave has done loads of RA scheme this year. I think my main focus this year, first of all, although like crime has been at the lowest for a while now, but I still want to focus on reducing crime as much as I can. But also, what I hadn't mentioned, my main manifesto point is SHAC. SHAC is an amazing scheme. I've worked as a SHAC staff, and I think there's so much more that needs to be done with it. We need to be up there with Purple Frog. We need to be up there with Broadcourt, Property Solutions. We need to be up there as a guild letting agency. Like, we should be promoting ourselves as the best out there, and because we are the best.
That's a brilliant idea. I'll definitely support that.
Thank you.
Some of your other policies, you talked about getting more police in Selly Oak and more wheelie bins.
Yeah,
now, we've campaigned for 9 years to get the first set of wheelie bins.
Yeah, yeah.
How are you going to do both of these things in 1 year?
In 1 year, for wheelie bins, I don't know if it's possible, I don't know. But I think there does need to be a restarting of this campaigning. I mean, after the 3 rows, Dawlish, Tiverton and Hubert, I think we sort of gave up, and I don't think that's right, and I think we need to carry on campaigning. I mean, what's wrong with the rest of the city haven't really been? Why those only 3 roads? Same with the police force. Like, they were what I thought amazing in the first term. They were doing fake break-ins, which was great. They were checking doors, they were checking windows. However, in second term, I felt a little bit let down by them, as compared to first term. I just want there to be a constant presence rather than just a really good presence and then a little break and then a really good presence again. I want there to be a constant presence so everyone feels as safe throughout the year as it did at the start.
And also going on, with the police force theme, there's currently a Cops Off Campus campaign. Are you a supporter of that?
At the moment, I have spoken, as in hustings, I mentioned no, and I still maintain that I don't agree with a full-on Cops Off Campus campaign. I have spoken to the people who do disagree with me, and I do see where they're coming from with various arguments that are presented to me. But however, I feel it's necessary, if it were to be an actual crime on campus, or to, in fact, Fab. I mean, if something happened at Fab and we had banned cops off campus, I mean, what would happen then? So I still stick by my guns, and I still say I don't agree totally with Cops Off Campus campaign. However, I do think there's a leeway to be met with the ones who do not agree with it, and I'm always up for discussion regarding that.
So I guess it's a case of just so many students, so many different opinions, just like everything. So you were unopposed, but I'm guessing it's still a relief to be elected?
Yeah, I was unopposed, but like I said in my speech, I campaigned as hard as I would anyway. I didn't take it lightly. I knew that I'd prepared anything anyway, just in case there was someone going against me. I had heard rumours, I was uncontested, but you know what? I was going to have fun campaigning anyway. I wanted to do the banners, I wanted to do the signs, I wanted to do the door knocking. And if anything, it only helps me next year anyway, like with student engagement and stuff anyway, so.
Brilliant. Well, that's all we've got time for. Back to Chloe.
Hi, I'm with Dave and the Average Joe campaign team. Now, you guys look really nervous when we're in Beyond Bar. How are you feeling?
Absolutely ecstatic now. I'm over the moon. Can't believe it.
Yeah, no, we're so proud for him. So proud for him. All the effort that we've put in. I'm Chris's campaign manager. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think we were expecting such a big victory, but we were expecting it to be quite close, but all the hard work's paid off, so brilliant, yeah.
As the campaign manager, what kind of thing did you do to kind of ensure this vote? Do you think it kind of really made a difference in it in the end?
I think a lot of it was based upon social media. So while Joe was out doing the hard work, knocking on doors, doing lecture shout-outs, we were back at base, sort of at 20 Dartmouth, just doing the hard work there by pestering people, like telling people to vote, but it was, yeah, paid off in the end.
So you're like quite happy. Are you going out to Fab tonight then to celebrate?
Yeah, 100% going out to Fab.
Without a shadow of a doubt, mate.
Are you going out to Fab?
No, I'm going to go home and get an early night, but yeah.
Are you going out to Fab?
I'll be out to Fab, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, in terms of the event itself, how did you think it went?
I think it was really good. It was really exciting. Suspense, as always, every year. Great fun. I'm sure the candidates have had the best night of their lives if they've won.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I hope you guys enjoy Fab. Thank you. Back to the studio.
Hi, so we're joined here with Frankie Greenwell, VPW-elect. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I guess you've broken what's been known as the carnival curse. Should we get that one out of the way?
Yeah. I think me and Jack Mabley are the first one since Ziki and Luke. I think that was the last one it was done, so very, very happy.
When you were on campus, which one of your policies do you think that most students really engaged with and most excited about?
I think it was surprisingly the online welfare resource that I want to get set up. Most people just kind of seem to look at it as didn't believe that it didn't already exist. And then when you explained to them that it didn't, they were like, well, why? And then that's what they really want out of the three. So that's what I'm going to focus on, setting up as quickly as possible.
Guys, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Frankie, you had a comment on social media from one of the students asking about your Frankie Says Relax slogan and asking whether you would be relaxed in your welfare position. Could you just clear that up for anyone who might still be concerned about that?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said on Facebook, it's kind of the gimmicks don't necessarily reflect people's policies, and it's the same with me. Frankie Says Relax leapt out. It's it's the catchy song. It was the first thing my mind went, first place my mind went. Of course I won't be relaxed about welfare issues. I've got so many serious issues to be tackling. not least some of the ones that were mentioned on the Facebook comment, sexual assault in Birmingham and all sorts. I think it's really important, and it's something that I'm really passionate about tackling as well.
So we've both sort of said over the past week or so that we thought yours was one of the biggest campaigns, but obviously couldn't say at the time. But I suppose now can say congratulations, well done both to you and your campaign team, who I'm sure are sort of celebrating, shall we say, upstairs.
I'm fairly sure they are.
You had a number of eye-catching objects on campus, including the not-so-comfy bed and the shed with some spelling mistakes on. But how did it go? I heard you had a creative method for taking the shed down. How did that go?
Yeah, the creative method for taking... it went well. It was entertaining. Basically, Jack Dart decided it would be a great idea to just run through it. And in his mind's eye, I think he thought he'd run through one side and carry on and run out the other side and leave like a kind of person-shaped hole like in Looney Tunes. And in reality, he hit one side and then fell over. And it was still left standing, which I was quite happy about. I thought the craftsmanship was pretty spectacular on that one, but it was entertaining. It was quite cathartic, just smashing it up after building it and taking so long setting it all up.
Now, welfare was a really, really strong. All the candidates were really strong, is what I mean to say, and all of them had really interesting policies and a really wide range. Are there any policies that your opponents had that you thought are so good that you really want to do them next year?
There are. I was planning on writing something comprehensive about this in the next couple of days once I've recovered from this evening. The big ones are, there's one, Helena put one out about reporting rape and sexual assault and finding an easy way to do that because the statistics are like mind-boggling. I don't have them off the top of my head, unfortunately, but they're incredible. Julie had one about extenuating circumstances, which I think is really important. Especially having kind of spoken to students on campus, that's something they really feel needs to change. And those two, and there's others as well, some of the kind of smaller policies, smaller ideas that we had when we were just chatting to each other that I really do just kind of want to take on board and try and get them done.
Okay, well, thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
I guess we'll be going to our roving reporter.
Oh, we're actually not going to our roving reporter just yet, guys. So have you got any more questions for Frankie?
Of course we have.
Always well prepared.
What were you most proud of in your campaign? As in like cardboard or like that wise or door knocking? And is there anything you'd change if you look back on it?
I did it again. I think the big thing that I'm the most proud of is that any of us made it out of bed in the morning. We had a big meeting before it all started and everyone looked around and went, none of us get up before 10 o'clock most days. How on earth are we going to do this? But it was, we managed to do it. We were up at 7, if not earlier, most days. So that's one of the things that I'm most proud of. I'm most thankful for my campaign team for actually getting up and getting out there. What would I change? I think I'd try and talk to more people. I talked to loads of people, and that's the best thing about it. And just talk to people about the issues that affect them. I think quite often people get bored of someone going, oh, vote for me, here's my policy, vote for me. And if you sit down and you go, this is what the welfare role does, what would you like to see done? And then you can talk to them and see what ideas that you both can come up with. I think that's what I try and do more. I think that was really good.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, go ahead,
Right. Frankie, you had a huge campaign team, and obviously some other candidates didn't have as many people. Do you think having a big campaign team makes a real difference to your campaign?
I think so. I think having a lot of people behind you makes you more confident, more than anything else, and it gives you the kind of your ease of mind where you can sit back and you can know that there are going to be people out helping you. There were days, especially in the middle of the second week, when no one wanted to come out, and there were like 3 or 4 of us, and that was really difficult. But I would say having a big campaign team is it makes everything easier. You have more fun. You can have a lot of jokes. You can talk to each other. And when one of you's feeling down, there's a lot of people to kind of pick you back up. And you'd see people. There were a few candidates who are out on their own a lot, and you try and talk to them and pick them up as much as you can. But I think it's having a couple of people behind you is a really, really good way of doing that.
So, like we said, sort of your campaign did stand out, but no one's ever going to come into this night feeling confident, well, perhaps feeling definitely sure they're going to win.
Yeah.
So, did you feel confident coming into tonight, and has it hit home yet what you'll be doing next year, and perhaps you'll be getting up before 10, most mornings, unfortunately?
Yeah. didn't feel confident at all. A couple of points throughout the evening, I was trying to be as relaxed, ironically, as possible. The amount of jokes I've had tonight about being relaxed would blow your mind.
Prepared for a few more, I'm guessing.
Yeah. No, not confident. I think coming in feeling confident is probably one of the worst things you can do, because if you win, you've achieved what you expected, and if you lose, you're disappointed. I came in actually expecting to lose. I thought I was certain someone else was going to win. And after the first round of voting, I was really confident. I was more confident and was like, yeah, okay, it's quite a strong possibility, and just waited until they said, you know, declare. Frankie says relax. I just didn't believe it. It still hasn't really sunk in. My parents have gone on holiday today, so I've sent them a text, and I'm sure they'll text back at some point. And I think once that comes through, it'll probably start sinking in a little bit more.
As you were saying, campaigning is really, really tough. It's physically and emotionally draining. As Vice President of Welfare, do you want to make any changes to elections next year, or do you feel that you can't really restrict campaigning because candidates do need a certain freedom?
It's been described several times throughout this as the toughest job interview in the world throughout campaigning. I think it definitely is. Would I want to change it? I think probably. I don't know how. What I'd like to do is talk to candidates and see what people thought of it, especially those who were quite critical of it, and see what ideas they have for changing it. And if there's like a viable option of changing it to make it more accessible, then that's definitely what I'd want to shoot for.
Well, we'll let you get back to your campaign team and celebrating. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
I think we might be finally heading back to our roving reporter, Chloe.
Yep. Hello. First of all, I'm with Rachel. Massive congratulations. How are you feeling now?
Thank you. Glad it's all over and done with, and I've got the position.
How was it in the Deb Hall just now? Were you anxious, nervous? Was the lighting a bit too much?
Bit anxious, but fortunately I was only competing against Ron, and wasn't too much of a
Was it quite odd competing against Ron for something that's so important in the Guild?
Yes, it was. I actually only applied 2 weeks before the deadline as well, so yeah.
Actually, I think that's quite common, people applying just before the deadline. Maybe it's because we're students. Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, do you think, as you were the only candidate this year, would you like to try and kind of do more to encourage people to apply next year?
Definitely, because I do think it is an important position that can impact on a lot of students, particularly with the Guild and the university.
Oh, definitely. It covers a very massive range. What kind of things do you want to implement first then, would you like to, when you first kind of get a chance to have a shot at it?
One of the biggest things I want to work on for my manifesto is awareness, because something as simple as being aware of things like mental health problems and also invisible disabilities, because I think often people hear the word disability and think wheelchair, not the whole spectrum it actually encompasses.
Oh, definitely. It's a very good course to go on. It must be very nice to be able to work towards something so important in society right now.
Definitely. It's something that people never know if they'll actually need, particularly now with the statistic that 1 in 4 people will have a mental health problem some stage in their life.
Just a personal question, do you have any ideas about using kind of social media to try and change it at all through your campaigns?
I'm trying. I'm learning very slowly. I'm slowly learning to tweet. It's not going brilliantly, but I will definitely try.
Twitter is a difficult one. I can just about do Facebook. Yeah. I know there are a few kind of campaigns on Facebook just now for things like breast cancer, and I wondered if something like that could maybe work for it. Would you ever try and attempt something like that, or do you think it's more important to do things kind of physically in the Guild?
I think a mixture of both. I do think it is important to work with people on a personal level, particularly with issues like support, but also for bigger causes, because they are important ultimately.
So, big question, what are you doing tonight?
Hopefully going to Fab, then bed.
That's Bev. Well, thank you very much for speaking to me. I've been Chloe Rayner. It's been lovely to present at the Guilds, and back to the studio.
Back to you guys.
So we're joined by Poppy Wilkinson, President and President-elect. I'm not quite sure how the title works. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Why do you think you won?
I don't know. That's a very ambiguous question. I don't think I'd like to think and predict how the student population vote, but I try to speak to as many people as possible, so I hope that I won because of my manifesto.
So if we go back to the presidential debate,
yes.
You said you weren't going to be having your free fab ticket, if I remember correctly. Are you going to be using the rest of this year's free fab tickets, for example, tonight, or does
If that's what students really want, I will buy a fab ticket.
Do candidates get in free tonight?
Yeah, all candidates get in free tonight. So tonight I am a candidate, so...
so make full use of it, I suppose.
Absolutely, I'll be there till 3 o'clock and later if they'll let me.
We've just got you there, guys.
We're just jealous, don't we?
What do you think, which policy do you think really spoke to students the most when you were speaking to them door to door?
I tried to have a very broad manifesto, so I tried to appeal to as many students as possible when writing my manifesto, because I think that we will all agree here that every student at the University of Birmingham isn't the same. But I think the one that stood out was the reforming guild politics. People don't like the fact that decision-making in the guild is only accessible to a small minority of students who are elected on a very small mandate in guild council. They have to physically go to the meeting. So if there isn't, if there's a stronger mandate out there for change, I'd like to see it. But I have been re-elected on a mandate for delivering democratic reform in the Guild of Students.
So you're the first president, I believe, of the Guild of Students to be re-elected. Tell us about sort of the challenges or perhaps the differences between a campaign you would run as a first-time candidate and as the incumbent.
I think when you're a first-time candidate, the challenge is getting your name and getting your policies out there. But I had the challenge of, to some students, already being known. So the questions I were getting were, what have you done already? Why do I not know who you are? But it's a very different campaign. But I think that last year's campaign and actually being a sabbatical officer prepared me for this campaign.
Who was your +1 and why did you select them?
We actually got +2.
Oh, who were your +2s?
It was Rob. He helped me a lot last year, actually, but he was unable to come last year, so I wanted him to experience this. And Jen, who provided me with food.
Sounds like she was the most important.
It was a chili, actually, if you were wondering.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yeah.
That's right. So, Poppy, you've had some challenges, obviously, this year, like no president doesn't. What have you learned from those challenges in your year, and what are you going to take ahead for this year and maybe change?
I think the biggest thing to learn is that you have to remain. You have to see the bigger picture at all times. So it's very easy to get wrapped up in tiny little things that happen, and they sort of consume the whole sabbatical officer team, they consume the whole organisation, but you have to remember that there are 30,000 students at this university, so the small things that seem like they're massive, they're actually insignificant to the majority of students. So it's just remaining that focus and keeping the student union going in the direction of where the majority of students want it to go. So how was it sort of coming in tonight differently compared to last year? Was there more confidence, less confidence? About the same. Like I said initially, is you can never predict how the student body are thinking, and I didn't know how I would be perceived amongst the student population, so I didn't think I'd won. I think you have to, like I said in my speech last year, someone told me that if you ever think you're winning, you're losing. And I didn't think I was winning at any point this year. So
I believe that's all we have time for. Thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
If you are looking for sweeping generalisations or incredibly biased political analysis, then me and James do freelance work, so we're very happy. Alice, do you have any final comments on the elections?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much to you guys tonight for joining us, and also for Chloe as well for being our roving reporter tonight. I think it's been an interesting year, hasn't it, guys, really? We've had probably no really surprising results tonight. Do you think that's going to change next year? Do you think we're going to have a better campaign next year, maybe?
Well, I hope we're always due surprises, at least when it comes to the nominations or just the type of policies people are bringing, because there is a bit of sort of disengagement with current students. So hopefully if we're getting new people involved, they'll introduce even more people, and we'll hopefully see a better turnout in elections.
Well, I'll have finally graduated next year, so I don't know whether I'll still be following them, but probably after the stunning work that GTV's been doing this year.
Guild TV.
Well, Guild TV. There's no excuse not to be following them. Oh, for goodness sake.
And I'd also like to say thank you very much to the other Guild media groups tonight, Burn FM and Red Brick, who have done some amazing coverage over the last week and a half, and also have done some coverage tonight. If you'd like to get involved with any of the media groups next year, you always can just search for Guild Television, Red Brick or Burn FM on the Guild of Students website, and you can join us at any time during the academic year. I think that's pretty much all we've got time for tonight, but firstly I am going to run through the successful sabbatical candidates for 2014. So firstly, the Vice President of Activities and Development is Vadim Veselek, so congratulations to him. Bethan Dovey is the Vice President of Democracy, Resources and Sustainability for 2014. The Vice President of Education is Joe Armour. Jack Mabley is the Vice President of Housing and Community, and Molly Brown is Vice President of Sport and Nutrition. Finally, the Vice President, the Vice President of Welfare is Frankie Greenwell. And finally, as you've just seen, our President for next year is Poppy Wilkinson. Congratulations to all those candidates tonight. We wish them all the best in their year ahead. So that's it. That's the end of our results night coverage for 2014. Commiserations to those individuals who the night perhaps didn't go their way, but congratulations to your brand new officer team for next year. We wish them all the best from Guild Television. From all the media groups, thank you very much for watching or listening to our coverage tonight. We hope to see you again for Guild Elections 2015. Enjoy Fab and good night.
PTA.